Welcome back to another episode of Uncut and Unfiltered. Today we are taking a journey into whiskey, a beginner's start with a fresh face here in the studio. Stevie, you're always here.
Not very fresh.
Pirate. You're not very fresh. Yeah, no,
Ever,
not at all, mate.
According to our
aging at a rapid rate.
Thanks.
Never looked worse. God. What other insults could you throw Stevie's way? Please don't. It's not necessary. He's working hard for us here, making sure that we get podcasts on a weekly basis. Hope you're enjoying them. Make sure you're subscribed. Today in the studio, though, we are joined by the Whisky amateur, Jayac. How are you, sir?
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. And that's a world exclusive. Jayac is my real name. I had some people at the festival come up to me and they're like, Whisky amateur, but what is your real name? It's Jayac.
It's nice that you're getting known as the Whisky amateur, though. You're putting out a lot of content on all the different channels. It shows, obviously, you've got a nice following. People appreciate what you're doing. And we definitely appreciate what you're doing as well, which is exactly why you're here. We wanted to get you along. And as the Whisky amateur, he wanted to bring us on a tour, your specific tour, as to how you got into whiskey. So this is a journey into whiskey, a good way to start. It's how Jayac started with these bottles. He's going to take us on a little journey. I brought a couple along as well, little shout outs for things that I think are good to get on your way as well. But yeah, look, I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into whiskey. Maybe pour the first dram there, whatever you want to start with. And tell us a little bit about you, because it was really through starting to work with your production company with different brands in the whiskey space that is how you got into the area. Is that right?
Yeah. So my day-to-day, there you go. I actually run a media and production company. We do video content for brands, social media content, things along that lines with photography, videography. Okay. And to begin with, we started working with a certain whiskey bar. Cool. Whiskey bar in Brighton. I hadn't had any knowledge about whiskey prior to that. I was a big rum drinker. But during that time, we started getting more and more clients ask us about TikTok. And this was around 2022-ish time, 2021. I didn't personally use it, TikTok. My colleague didn't use TikTok, but we were getting more people asking about TikTok. So I was like, right, I'm going to go on a challenge to learn more about TikTok. And what better way than starting my own channel? Right. At the time, I didn't want to do a TikTok channel for our business because naively I thought it's not for our demographic. And a lot of people's preconceptions about TikTok, it's people doing dances, things like that. Aye. So we started working with this whiskey brand. So we're like, what I'll do is I'll log my journey into the whiskey world from a complete novice and see how I progress. It was a chance for me to learn the platform really, but also log my journey into whiskey. I didn't really have an end goal to it. I just said, right, for 6 months, I'm going to upload a video every other day consistently. And that's what I'll do for the next 6 months. So I had some really good success, to be fair, unintentionally. Again, I just did it just to learn the platform. But, and 2 years later, I still do that.
You hit it off on TikTok though, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like I think you got over like 1 million views now or something, or more maybe.
Yeah, but, So
they went down really, really well, didn't they?
Yeah, so we're just shy of 10,000 followers, but I've had videos that hit like 1.2 million views. That was the most viewed one. I had 10,000, 60,000, things like that. And I always tell people that when they think of TikTok, to not think of it as like an entertainment platform like Instagram or Facebook. Think of it like a search engine. So say you want to learn something about Benriach 10, which we're about to try now. Rather than going to the official Benriach website, searching tasting notes, I'll search on TikTok, up will come a 30-second review, bam, I know whether it's good or not. Right. I know what the tasting notes are and things like that. For sure. So, and that's the way that brands need to think about it. Now, if you go on TikTok and you search Benriach 10, you're not going to go to Benriach's website, you're going to come to my page where I say, right, this is what I think about Benriach as a beginner.
As the whiskey amateur.
As the whiskey amateur.
For sure.
So, the Benriach 10, I want to try something a little bit different with you guys before you guys have a sip and get into it.
Oh, too late. I got thirsty. You got that dram in front of me and now expect me to go in.
I want you guys just to close your eyes for a few seconds. And I'm going to ask the audience at home just to close your eyes, because it's very easy to get caught up into the whiskey world about cask strength, single cask limitation. And I want you to close your eyes, not if you're operating machinery or driving a car, but I want you to think about a time before you really knew much about whiskey, before there was single cask, before there was limited edition, before there was a Macallan, before there was Springbank, before there was auctions. Because a lot of people's whiskey journey begins, for the most part, at the supermarket, because it's the most readily available whiskey. So open your eyes up again. You know, you're not the whiskey baron. You're not the dram pirate.
Where's my wallet?
Guys, all the cameras are gone. Yes. And I want you to just think back, but ignore, like cask strength, ignore any sort of that knowledge. I want you to go back to a time when you don't know anything about whiskey. You want to learn a little bit, you want to learn about it, but maybe your budgets aren't as big as they stretch to now, because it's very easy to get caught up with and be like, we try £100 bottle of whiskey, £200 bottle of whiskey. Yeah, let's buy that. But for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. £150, especially if you don't know anything about whiskey, is a lot of money. So Benriach 10, I recommend a lot of the time to people as a great starter, because you usually find it on special. Well, when I got it, it was £25 a bottle. It's age statement, so it's 10 year. It's from Benriach and it's a single malt. So it kind of ticks those boxes of people that enter the industry. That's like, what is a single malt? What is a 10-year whiskey taste like? I think it's a really good sort of beginner step into it for a whiskey that you can get readily available at Tesco, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, you name it.
For sure. No, I agree. I think Benriach is a really interesting place to start, and it's good quality. This is the thing, you talk about starting on your journey, and a lot of people will be, keen to get single malt and an age statement, which I don't think is necessarily important, but like you say, people come in with preconceptions and boxes to tick. And I think that if those are boxes that you want ticking, you can't really ask for, much better than Benriach 10 if you are working within that sort of a budget. This is the triple cask, right?
Yeah.
So what is it? It's bourbon, sherry, and...
Bourbon, sherry, and virgin oak.
It is virgin oak. Okay,
yeah.
Right, cool. I love Benriach. It's, a super estery, juicy spirit. I think it's quite robust. It works quite nicely in a multitude of styles. Kind of similar with all of the Brown-Forman juice, Glenglassaugh, Glendronach in particular, really takes on, all different sorts of maturation. But Benriach is wonderful. It's light, it's easygoing, it's approachable, those fruity vibes coming through. And the 10-year-old is lovely. It's been a minute since I've had it, to be honest. So
what do you think of it, sir? Again, strip it back from the whiskey barrel, strip it back from these cask strengths. If you were to be a beginner and you were to nose it, what would you smell? What would you taste? How would you?
Yeah, I mean, you say to strip away. I mean, ultimately,
vanilla.
Yeah.
What is this bottle?
Smooth, but no.
Free.
I think it's interesting. You say, go back before you were sort of in whiskey. I think the interesting thing about people's whiskey journeys, and I was having this conversation with Stevie recently, is you kind of go around in circles. And you'll notice that people get into whiskey and they want something that's approachable and maybe light and, fits their style. Most people will go for a style like this. Yeah. You do get the odd person that's like, something that's big and thick and rich TCP from Isla reminds me of my childhood or something. Yeah. But most of the time, people want easygoing flavors that are approachable. So they start with something like this, and then maybe they'll get a little bit more into sherry or peat, and then they'll maybe bump it up cask strength, and then they won't look at stuff like this. But as you go through, you then kind of come full circle. And I'm kind of now coming full circle, over the last sort of 2, maybe 3 years, just before that, there was a time where I was drinking so much cask strength whiskey, I wouldn't want to look at something like this. Yeah. I'm very open to looking at something like this. And actually, one of the bottles that I've bought, we don't have to drink it today, but a similar style is the Glenlivet 12. Now, a lot of people and whiskey snobs would probably be like, oh, well, that's a bit basic. And Glenlivet is, one of the 2 biggest producers in Scotland. Yeah. You're talking over 20 million litres per annum as a capacity. That's fucking huge. Yeah. This is a 12-year-old spirit. I've been absolutely boshing this back recently and really enjoying it. And it's simple, similar to this, but it ticks all of the boxes of being light, being approachable, being fruity. You're not going to sit there and write tasting notes on it all afternoon, but it's really enjoyable. This is a double oak, that's a triple oak, It's something I think that, you do on your journey start getting into niches, and maybe, Stevie for a long time would say, oh, this is too thin. But I think even you now are coming a little bit more full circle. You're willing to appreciate things that are lower ABV because your palate has developed to a point. At the start of your journey, you want something that's low ABV and approachable and not too sort of offensive in any way because your palate isn't used to, pure alcohol, right? Yeah. As you come back around, you're starting to appreciate all of the layers that these sorts of the nuances that these sorts of whiskies provide that you probably would have missed out on when you were like, oh, it's all about cask strength because that's where all of the flavor is. Yeah. Well, no, that's not necessarily where all of the flavor is. That's just where you're at on your journey at the minute. And fair fucking play. And most people that I know do kind of take that journey, like I say, going into specific flavors, whether it be sherry or peat, and then into the cask strength, and then it's all high strength for a while. Yeah. But it does come back around. And it's it's like, you know, serious tasters. They'll go through, you know, tasting notes, and they build up their tasting notes, and then they give you all the tasting notes. Once you've been doing that for 10, 15 years, most people, you know, it's nice.
Yeah.
And it's not all about writing tasting notes for fucking hours. Do you know what I mean? And so it's that journey on whiskey. And for me now, I'm in a place where I can really enjoy something like this Glenlivet 12, this Benriach 10. It really sings from the glass. And whilst I'm not a novice anymore, I mean, in a lot of ways I still am. You compare myself to the likes of, you know, all of the legends that we're learning from all the time and people that we've had on the show. I know nothing. Yeah, very much at the foot of the mountain. But it's something that I'm now being able to appreciate a lot more. Yeah. And I think, you know, whether you are fresh on your journey or you're coming back round and coming full circle, it's the sort of thing you need to keep giving an opportunity to. Don't write something off as, oh, that's just for beginners. Yeah. We were all a beginner once, you know. That's why I love your channel. Yeah. You're very welcoming to people into the industry. I think that we need that. We need more young people coming in. Yeah, we need to retain the older people, you know. Whiskey isn't just for middle-aged white men with beards, but we don't want to lose those people. Everyone's welcome, you know. But it's important that everyone feels welcome, and I think that that's what you're really good at. And I think that lineups like this, you know, you've got a little bit of diversity here as we go on, some richer flavors, some fuller flavors, you know. And I think it's important to give everything a try. Yeah,
do you know what? I think that's a really good point about you saying about welcoming, because for me personally, it wasn't always like that. When I first did my TikTok videos, it got really good reception. So after a few months, I was like, you know, I'm going to cross-post this. Let's move this along to Instagram. Let's move this along to YouTube. Let's move this on to Facebook. And I was actually on Instagram that I think it was one of my first few videos. I had somebody that I knew message me. Again, I'm a complete beginner. I say to everyone, I'm a beginner. You know, this is just my opinion. This is what I think, but that's just my opinion. And someone messaged me one day and was like, oh, you're getting a lot of heat. You know, you're getting a lot of abuse online. I was like, what do you mean? I can't see anything. It was like, no, in a few whiskey WhatsApp groups I'm part of in London.
Private groups. He was like, yeah, people really going in. He's like, I'm not going to say exactly what they're saying because it's not worth your time. And I was sitting at home like, oh my God, like, what have I done? I just uploaded videos. You know, this is again, I'm a beginner. I say this is, you know, and I'm not easily offended, you know, it doesn't bother me. If someone doesn't like me, someone doesn't like me. You know, I'll try and make you like me, but at the end of the day, you can't be friends with everyone. You're not going to change yourself though, is it?
Exactly. But it just kind of riled me up because whiskey has this preconception of being an old man's drink, sitting in smoking lounges, man only with leather-bound books, rich mahogany, those sorts of things. And this kind of and exclusionary, and whether people like it or not, it has that preconception. You know, it's quite nerve-wracking. I remember when I first went to a whiskey bar, I was like, I don't want to ask the price. How much is this going to cost me? You know, I don't want to spend masses. So I actually put a video up like addressing that, and I basically said, you know, why do people think it's all right to give people abuse, you know, a lot online about, you know, a new beginner? These people are seasoned vets, you know. I know these people that have vast whiskey collections, you know, they really know their stuff. But if you wanted to change the perception of whiskey and you're trying to get new life into it, why do you think that abusing a beginner person in the sector is anyway beneficial to the sector as a whole?
It's not necessary. No, you're absolutely fucking right. No. So you stood up for yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so I put a video up, and again, like, I'm not offended. It doesn't bother me, but I just basically said that for anybody out there who's maybe a little bit more meeker, a little bit more milder, maybe the first day they uploaded one video and you abuse them, they might never come back to whiskey again. They're like, fuck whiskey. Straight up, I don't want to be part of that. You know, I've gone. You know, I went to a bar, people didn't want to talk to me and things like that. Yeah. So I put it up there, and it got really good reception. And a few of the people from that were part of what happened, they actually messaged me privately to say, you know, like, we apologize if we didn't mean it to come across like that, so on and so forth. And I said to them, I was like, you know, like, I'm not fussed, and honestly, like, I'm not easily offended. Say what you want about how I look, what I drink, what I say.
No, but the point being, it didn't bother you, but you're right. It could bother the next person, the next man, the next woman, you know, the next young individual. I think, you know, a lot of young people today, they are a little bit more mild. You know, you can easily offend people, which I find difficult. I never mean any offense by anything that we say, but, you know, people have called us out for being a little bit brash sometimes. Sure. Yeah. And this is the thing. I think so long as you are being welcoming to everyone, and that's what we try and do here, same as what you do. You know, don't spend a huge amount of time on socials, but people send me your stuff all the time. And I think it's fucking brilliant what you're doing, man, because it's an open, honest opinion, which is all you can offer as an individual. That's all any of us have to offer, and offer it out to the world in just a humble way. And I think that's exactly what we try and do here. You know, we get a little bit carried away, we get a little bit excited, we're a bit brash, we're a little bit bolshy, but you know, anyone's always welcome down. You know, and thank you for joining us today, and thank you again. And guys, we always say, you know, we bring our collections out, we're more than happy to share. Jayac is bringing his bottles here today. You know, I bought a couple. We probably, maybe we'll touch into some of them, and we'll definitely share some bits and pieces with you afterwards. But, you know, really appreciate you coming down and sharing this with us, because I think it's important. You know, the more that we share, both with knowledge and juice and just time, you know,
that's it.
Everyone's at a different stage in their journey. I personally feel I'm still very much at the foot of the mountain. I've got everything to learn ahead of me. But if there's ever any knowledge I can pass along, or more importantly, some confidence that I can pass along to the next person. Because like you say, you get started in whiskey, particularly going into a bar or into a whiskey shop.
It's also a very intimidating space to be when you're first.
To be overwhelming.
For sure.
You know, not just with bottles, but like you that say that sort of reception from people and that judgment from people, which is... you know, it's a shame, you know, but there are those people out there. But it's good that you brushed it off, and it's a good point, Jake, you brought up there of you know, Jayac could just brush it off, but you know, the online bullying and that sort of thing that goes on do affect people in quite different ways, you know, and you know, there are very sad endings to that as well that have been in different industries that I know
for sure.
But yeah, exactly that. It's to begin with, it can be very overwhelming. And it's interesting you went to the Benriach 10 for your first dram. I mean, what was the thought process behind that?
So it wasn't my first ever whiskey in the whiskey world. It's actually the third one we go through. But when you try it, you understand why we can't start with that.
Sure.
But the Benriach 10, in all honesty, it was on special. It was on there for £25.
Yeah.
I looked at it. I was like, it's had a new rebrand. The bottle looks kind of cool.
Yep.
It's got 10 years. Oh, it says single malt on it. Oh, let's try. And it's actually not 40%. I believe it's 43%.
Yes,
43%. Yeah. So you've got that little bit more something to it. Because naturally, a lot of people and the best sellers in the world are like the Johnny Walkers, the Buchanans, the blends and things like that. And this offered something that, at the time for me, you know, felt a little bit more special. You know, it comes in a nice carton box. It's a little bit more than the blends, and it was a good little starting point, I think.
I must say, sitting here and it's sort of opening up, so much tropical fruit going on in here.
Yeah.
Tropical fruit, yeah? What sort of stuff are you getting?
So I first got like a mango tea.
Okay.
When it first was in the glass.
That's interesting.
You know, it was, it's really...
I've never had mango tea.
It's really good, yeah. You can get, anyway. Mango tea, and then now it's just going into that kind of like melon, mangoes.
Melon, I get definitely. Like honeydew melon.
You know,
more
very sweet.
Very
sweet fruit.
It's estuary, definitely. For me, it's like tangerine.
All right,
that's the most prominent kind of orangey tangerine-y. Really, really nice. But it's also quite fragrant. You get some kind of like cedar wood, I want to say. Yeah. It's like almost a little bit cologne-y, you know. There is a depth of something there.
Yeah. But it's nice that
the
we've
vanillas it's not. It's got a little bit of everything. But you're right. It's very sweet. I wouldn't necessarily pick up on the mango, but it's interesting that that's interesting.
Yeah, mango's there.
No, cool. It's interesting that, like, even just here, three of us, we all say different things, and that's the thing that people need to be confident in, is that, you know, you're not going to like everything. We're all not going to like the same drams. What you like might be different to what I like. What might be different to what you like.
Correct. And
saying what you think openly is there's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes at tasting, you go, people a bit nerdy, you know, what do you taste? And people something like, oh, you know, I don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
You know, you say what you want. You know, everyone's going to have different.
No one's wrong, and also no one's right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I was having this conversation with someone on Instagram, one of our followers, and I think he's just starting on his journey. And he was sort of asking, you know, what to buy. And it's kind of a hard question to answer, really, because as you say, everyone likes different things. Yeah. But he was just saying, oh, how do you get so good at picking up flavors? You know, I don't, you know, and I said, the first thing that I did was stop trying to say things that I thought maybe people wanted to hear. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because I was worried about the judgment, or I was getting something wrong. And you quickly learn that there is no wrong or right answer with it. And I think as soon as you get over that and you just start actually tapping into what you're actually smelling and tasting and being honest about it, even if it's weird or wrong in their perception. I think the quicker you can start to lean into getting a bit better with tasting notes.
I agree with that. And just on the back of that, Stevie, what I would always say as well, and somebody far more knowledgeable than me taught me this very early in my journey, is if you want to get better at tasting notes, as we've already highlighted, there's no right and there's no wrong. It's very personal. Everyone has their old olfactory system, and you'll have memories that link certain things, and our brains are amazing pieces of equipment, right? It's very important to vocalize what you're experiencing.
Yes.
Because as soon as you vocalize it, you will then link that taste into your mind, and you'll be able to label it. And so next time you're able to label it. It's like anything. It's like, training for any sort of sport. You repeat something over and over and over again, and it becomes muscle memory.
Yes.
If you just sit there quietly by yourself and think, I don't want to say the wrong thing, and so you don't say anything, you don't write anything down, you're not actually
you're setting yourself
your
up
mind.
for failure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's important to have these conversations. And if you're by yourself, just say what you're tasting out loud, or write it down and keep a little journal. I know people who have all sorts of methods, but make a point of vocalizing it one way or another. I get this. And then we'll sit here and you go, that's interesting. Yeah. I don't get it, and you can, if you're with friends, you're wrong, and that's fine. It's a bit of a joke, I get this. But then it challenges you, and you come back and you come forth. And that's why I think this podcast is so great. And it's been a huge part of my development, this last year and a half, trying all different sorts of whiskies and talking a lot with yourself and with Ian, but also with people like yourself, Jayac, our guests who come along, most of which know an awful lot more than I do, but you've got your journey, and I'm going to learn something today, I'm sure. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's important. So keeping an open mind, not worrying about being wrong, being confident to sound like an idiot. And that's, I think that's part of it. At the end of the day here, we're all drinking seriously high strength alcohol and going, it tastes like melons. It's probably something a little bit wrong with all of us, right? But it's that confidence and just being able to vocalize it and learn, and that will help a massive amount in being able to further develop your tasting notes. So,
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
A good start, though. I like this. This is yummy.
Thank you. It's good. It's a really easy drinker. And like you were saying, with tasting notes and things like that, a lot of my first videos, I said, it smells like whiskey. It tastes like whiskey. And I openly put it out there. Like you go to TikTok, you go to my old videos, I'm literally like, it smells like whiskey. And I say to this day, I have a really bad nose. Maybe physically, but also like when it comes to whiskey, I just can't pick out notes as well as other people. And that's all right. And again, for people that are starting out, you don't have to stress about, I can't taste these notes. I had someone message me before and he was like, I really wanted to try sherry, but I can't really taste the note. I don't know the difference. And I was like, don't stress, just try it. It's not an exam. It's a drink. It's a commodity, it's not something that you need to overthink. It's not Pythagoras' theorem. It's sip it, enjoy it, you like it, add ice, add water, chuck in a cocktail. That's another thing that I stress to people is there's no right or wrong way to drink. Personally, I recommend people try it straight or neat first, see so you can get the flavors. Then if you want to add a bit of water, add a bit of water. Maybe you don't like that, maybe pour it again, try it with ice, or maybe put in a cocktail. But again, there's no right or wrong way. You want to add Coke to this, add Coke to it. If you want to add lemonade, add lemonade to it. It's what you.
I think the good
drink.
thing is just coming at all things with a point of learning and understanding. If you don't understand fully, what adding water does, what adding ice does. Like you said, there's no right, there's no wrong. I mean, for me, adding Coke would be insanity. But that's because I don't like Coca-Cola. I would always, I've poured some of our, 25-year-old Ben Nevis, which is, for most people, quite an expensive bottle. Few £100 at least, and I've poured it for someone and gone, you like cokey whiskeys, don't you? Yeah, so, right, have that with your Coke then. I couldn't give a shit less. People that was at a whiskey event, and people were looking at me like, he's just poured a £300 bottle for this guy, not asked him for anything, and said, pour some Coke in it if you want. I don't care. No. It's not something I would want. I did try it.
He loved it.
He fucking loved it. I tried it and I was like, you know what? I hate Coke. And I hate Coke and whiskey as a result. But if I was going to have a Coke and whiskey, that's the
it
Coke and whiskey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So this is the thing. There's no right and there's no wrong. But yeah, just understanding, you know, and taking yourself further on that journey. And with that being said, can we maybe pour the next one? I think, again, if you're on the beginning of your journey, I always say there's no better way to try a dram than with one in each hand, you know. And what we've got here is a 10-year-old Arran, which is nice to compare and contrast to a 10-year-old Benriach. Similar styles. So why was this the next in your journey there, Jayac?
So I was so I'm terrible at multitasking. Just also pour anyway. I've got
just a splash. Let's keep throw you. It's very perfect. Lovely.
So obviously Benriach 10 easily available in supermarkets. At the time, I don't know if it's changed now, but Arran 10 was a similar price point, but it was like £5 or £10 more expensive, I believe. So it was only a little bit more expensive, but it's from a distillery that has half the output than Benriach. So Benriach, I think, is 3 million litres annually, whereas Arran's 1.5. So I don't want to call it boutiquey, but in comparison to Benriach, it felt like a little bit more special, let's say. Yeah, a level up. Again, it's an age statement, 10-year, non-chill filtered, no colouring added. And this one very clearly says it on the outer label. Naively, when I first got the Benriach, it doesn't say anything on the front label, I don't believe, about that. So I was like, oh, you know, maybe they add, it's a big commercial product. Maybe they add colouring. In fact, they don't. But this was like, right, non-chill filtered, no colouring added, 10-year, and a little step up, this was 46%. But again, it's quite a sort of lightish whiskey. And someone had recommended it similarly from Benriach. So I thought, you know, why not? I believe I paid for it at the time, it was like £35. So from the Benriach being £25, that £35 is £10 more.
ABV is a little bit higher as well.
ABV is a little bit more. Yeah. But again, my price point at the time, I was like, I don't want to be spending hundreds of pounds of bottles of whiskey. I'm not a whiskey drinker. At that point, I wasn't a whiskey drinker. I'm just trying to learn a bit more and dip my toe in. And that was, that was the next spot for my journey.
Well, you can't go wrong with Arran, as we know.
Love a bit of Arran. Lochranza is a fantastic distillery, but equally, as you all know at home, Lag has a special place in my heart, in my opinion. Probably certainly one of the best new distilleries out there, and it works so well at a young age. But that's for peat heads, peat lovers, and maybe for somebody a little bit further along their journey, although I wouldn't necessarily say so. It's just a flavour profile. But Lochranza and this Arran 10-year-old is I mean, it's hard not to enjoy this, right?
Yeah.
You know, yes, it is a little bit more full-bodied. I think the alcohol is a bit more present, and this is the thing. Again, you know, we're talking about being along our journey. Just because I've come full circle and I now appreciate these things, I was still very much used to drinking cask strength, high strength whiskies, and we've got to appreciate. Most people think 40% is high strength alcohol, which it absolutely is, and please drink responsibly. But you know, at the same time, it's like, you know, 46. It's a lot for some people.
Yeah.
And we've got to remember that as people who have now been, you know, in the industry and drinking and enjoying and been enthusiasts for a minute.
For sure.
I think that the alcohol in this is a lot more present. It's not to say that it's spiky or out of balance at any point, but it is more present. I think it's more...
There's more of a fragrance here, like a little bit more of a floral fragrance than from the fruit that we got on the Benriach for me.
For sure. I'd agree with that.
I agree with you as well. The alcohol is a lot more present. And it's interesting you say that. You don't really think about it. You know, 46% as whiskey drinkers now. 46, that's all right. It's a bit low, maybe. Especially when, you know, you're drinking cask strength whiskies all the time. But yeah, you got to remember, if you're just getting into whiskey, what have you had that's over 46% before? You know, you might be a beer drinker. You might like a bit of gin, a bit of vodka. I mean, 46% is high.
It's getting up there.
You know?
It is. Yeah.
Wait until you try a 67% whiskey, you know, in your journey. And that's when, things get really interesting. But no, this works so well at 46. It could probably even take a very, very small splash, droplet of water from...
It's not too thin.
Jayac's crack pipe that he's built. It's not a crack pipe, everyone. It's
I tucked it to hide
a water dropper. But,
just for clarification, this is it. Yeah. It's a pipette.
Yeah.
because I thought you guys had open spouted water bottles, and I'm terrible. You see my pause with the whiskey, I'm just like, so this just helps me measure
you can spoil a dram quite easily.
100%.
You can always add more water. You can't take it out. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And my friends, they sometimes add too much to water and then they drink it. I'm like, don't force yourself. We pour another one. I think, like drinks, you have it because you're there to enjoy it. I think whiskey as a sector is quite interesting because there's not many other spirits where you're taught that you have to just drink it 40% straight. You have beers are, 3, 4, 5%. You have wines are 10, 11. You have a gin. Nobody says, here, just sip this gin. It's not common practice. Vodka, maybe. Rum, again, a lot of rum's chucked in cocktails. But for some reason, whiskey, they're like, no. 40%, drink it straight. You can't, no, don't chuck in a cocktail, don't add ice. No, you're fucking around with it. Just drink it straight. Which is why I like, when people mix, people experiment with cocktails, people add a bit of water. Drink it how you like I say. But it's funny that as a sector, people have this sort of perception that you can't do anything else with it. It has to be that. And I think for a lot of people, we get used to drinking high strength alcohol and we kind of become a bit more numb to it. We drink 40% easy. But when I give it to my friends, they're 40% and they're like...
blows their head off.
Yeah, they're used to drinking, like beers, IPA at 3, 4, 5%.
Yeah.
And suddenly give them the 40%. I'm like, wait till I give you the 60%. They try that and they're like, all I can taste is alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, once you start getting into whiskey, it's easy to forget that actually 40% it's burn, it's...
Yeah, and it doesn't really, for me, always work very well. There's obviously a big reason why most do it. But it's great to see distilleries like Benriach and Arran not go down to that line, that 40% line, just to get more liquid out or whatever.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. It needs to work at a strength, and I think both of these whiskies work at the strength that they're at. And just going back, and again, this is a 40% dram, and a lot of people know that I will quite happily rip a whiskey if it's just bottled at 40% to get more liquid out. Shout out Glenfiddich 12. It does not work at that strength, in my opinion. I'm just one man. It's one of the best selling whiskies globally, so obviously it ticks the boxes for a lot of people. This Glenlivet, in my opinion, does work at 40%. That Benriach, beautiful at 43, and this Arran at 46. It has a little bit more structure. Like I say, you can definitely taste that there's more alcohol there, which at the start of your journey might be an exciting level up, which is great how you've gone from 1 to 2. I really like this journey that you're bringing on this far, Jayac. It's great. To me, the flavors, you're right, there's a bit more fragrance. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, it's giving me apple crumble.
All right.
Crimble crumble, mate.
Crimble crumble.
Yeah, it's giving me a little bit of apple crumble. It's lovely. Again, not something similar to the Benriach and similar to the Glenlivet that I would end up writing tasting note about. But at an early stage in your journey, being able to pick out, as I said, the last one for me was tangerines and that kind of cedar oak and vanillas.
Yeah.
Those are 3 great notes.
Yeah.
Vanilla you're going to find everywhere, but some fruit. You were saying melon or honeydew melon. You said melon.
All the melons.
All of the melons and more. Mango you were saying as well.
Mango
great.
melons, yeah.
You're finding this one more floral still?
There's a little bit of floralness. However, I'm getting a bit more of a jam on toast as well here.
All right.
A bit of maltiness in there.
Okay.
Bit of sweetness. But yeah, there is a fragrance there. Is this, did they finish this in sherry? I can't remember what the cast are for this.
Good question.
Yeah, I believe there is a sherry influence in this, but I might be misremembering. Obviously, we were over at Lachranza not long ago. But
it doesn't say on the cask.
Okay.
And I didn't put it in my notes. So
that's all right.
Let me have a look
it's
if
fine.
I can find.
It's fine. I think it might be.
I think it does have an element of sherry.
It's also just a really nice bottle, I think. They've gone to effort. They've got an imprint. It's a different shape. So again, for a lot of people, when they gift whiskey, they'll gift a lot of supermarket stuff. When your grandparents give you something, and this is a little step up more, but it's quite nice for like 35 quid. At the time with the box, it's It's a nice little bottle, but
it's presented very nicely. Yeah, I do like this rebrand. I think there was a lot of people that were a bit unhappy because not everyone likes change, but no, it's really cool.
I can't find.
I like it.
I'm just getting tasting notes now being incepted. But yeah, I can't find whether it's...
But it's a really light whiskey again, similar to the Benriach. So I don't feel like it's very invasive in your mouth. That's probably a really bad terminology.
Welcome to the Uncut Unfiltered.
But it's not really, smacks you in the face. It's just, it's fruity. It's light. And if you want to, put it in a cocktail, like a highball, it'd be so nice, summery drink. That's a perfect sort of use for it. And Absolutely. Again, for when people come around and they don't want to drink it neat, introduce them to them in a light cocktail or try it different ways.
It is a great gateway for new people into whiskey.
Yeah, so, and the price point, I think at this point, I'm quite open. Anyone that comes to my house, I'm just like, if you want anything from the cupboard, help yourself. I'm not shy about it. I'm not protective about it. I'm a big believer whiskey's there to be drunk. And believe it or not, I don't just sit there every evening sipping back whiskey. So I've got a nice collection. But especially with my friends, that's a good one that I'd recommend for a beginner to try it. You want to add a bit, of soda with it, add a bit of soda with it. Also, if you pour it away, it's not going to break the bank. It's 35, 40 quid. Some people might say it's sacrilege, but I say to my friend, if you don't enjoy it, don't force yourself to enjoy it. There's no point in forcing it down if it's just horrible. Just let me get you a beer or something instead if you really don't like it.
This is it. Look, I couldn't agree more. And I think, again, we talk about, alcohol, it's, ultimately a serious drug, and, it needs to be given the respect that it's due. And don't drink something just for the sake of it. Equally, we were all recently at the Whisky event, and fucking awesome to see you there with your production company, man. Really, really great, capturing content, enjoying ourselves. We all indulged in a couple of drams. It's wonderful that at these sorts of events, most people do pay whiskey the respect it deserves. But at some of these, we went to a couple of the masterclasses, and people have boshed back the whiskeys before the ambassadors even started talking.
Rude.
It's fucking, exactly. First of all, it's fucking rude, because you've got, we had who? Felicity White for Macallan. We had Ethan Yule and Colin Dunn for Diageo. Yeah. These are fucking legends. These are people who have a lot of experience, For me, the Macallan one, was interesting to, try Macallan here and there. But it's great to hear Felicity talking about these whiskies, and you learn a bit. And I was, I didn't finish all of them.
Yeah.
We had a lot of whiskies to drink that evening. Yeah. Some people were like, oh, sacrilege to leave, Macallan 30 in the glass. I actually brought it downstairs and shared it out with a couple of other people because I didn't want it to go to waste, but I'm not going to finish it all, And then we went into the Diageo tasting. Granted, I didn't let many of those go to waste because, we were lucky enough to try some seriously crazy whiskeys that I'll never try again. But even still, it's like, don't finish a dram just for the sake of it. Share it out. I love that you're so open and just willing to share, and today is a perfect example of who you are and what you're about, Jayac, and thank you again for joining us. But, give whiskey the respect that it deserves, because exactly, you drinking a beer and it's a little bit slower. You're drinking a whiskey, the alcohol can hit you a lot quicker. Yeah. Nobody needs to be stumbling around, acting a fool and, getting overexcited, whether it be, at an event or at home, Give whiskey the respect that it deserves. I think it's important.
At home,
Oh, listen.
You see the state of me sometimes.
I do see the state of me sometimes. Mate.
Cheers, mate.
No, listen. I'm not trying to be overly reverent here. I'm not saying you can't have a bit of crack, but
especially when you're getting into it, just be careful.
Just be careful. Because it can creep up on you.
Be mindful. And it's happened. When I met you,
Exactly. Sorry, clarify what you mean there.
Well, I've been in the program now for 6 months. But no, because, started working you sort of separately when I had sort of my old company, and, you turned up to the studio as you do, and you had your first 3 bostlings there, high strength whiskies, and I was very polite. Thank you. I'll try them. Yeah, try that. Yeah. I'll just, I'll drink it all as well. Yeah. That's another thing, You think you don't have to finish your dram. You do you. And all of a sudden, bang! You're like, fucking hell. Yeah. Jesus, And it happened quite a few times in the beginning. I'm quite good to maybe hide it when I'm really smashing. There's a point where I just maybe take myself home. Yeah. Whether it be whatever. Obviously, when we're working, we turn it down a bit, but. Yeah, absolutely paid respect deserved, because this ain't, any sort of light work. This is high strength
stuff. And I've seen, we've seen the other side of it, It's, again, not to take the tone down, whiskey is a beautiful thing and give it the respect it deserves, and there's no need to be
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, and you make a good point of having these sorts of conversations and making these sorts of videos, you know. Alcoholism is real. Talk to people, you know. Every time you go out, you don't need to be drinking. Sometimes we'll talk about whiskey and we won't have a dram. You know, ultimately, between the podcast and our work life, we drink a good bit of whiskey. So sometimes it's actually nice to meet up and go, can we just fucking hydrate, mate? Like, But I mean, that fucking whatever we had the other day is amazing, isn't it? And we just talk about it without drinking.
It's like when we turn up to our local, they sometimes, you know, bring out some whiskey glass and I'm like, no, I have a green tea. And I will. We'll sit there after a tea and coffee, you know.
It's an important topic though. I think it's and I did a video about that as well, because you get a bit conflicted, because I do a lot of things, you know, to introduce people to a sector, and God forbid I introduce someone who has an issue that then develops an issue, and then they see my videos crop up every day and they're like, oh yeah, let me just do this. And I think people just, you know, we're quite lucky with the whiskeys that we get to try, that they're a little bit more, I don't want to use the word elegant, but we sit and we think. And that's the way that I sit. I'm not sitting at home like knocking it back. I love a complex whiskey. And the first two are lighter, easy drinkers, and we come to more complex. But my favorite sort of dram is something that I sit and I'll think and I'll be like, you know, I can't quite think of this sort of note, you know, the combination between sherry and peat or a smoky and sweet whiskey. And that's the things I enjoy, where I'm just sipping and I'm just thinking about it. I'm not there knocking it back because it's an easy drinker. And like one of the ones I got here, I think it's like over 60%. But it's nice to sit and think and sip and think. And I'm not there knocking or smashing them back. And I think that people also just need to be aware that when they're drinking, that don't just sit at home and just smash the whiskey. I mean, do what you want with the whiskey, but at the end of the day, it is, you know, it's a drug in some respects, you know, and you have to respect it.
Yeah, but like you say, that's your approach. Yeah. And I respect that. It's the same way that we approach it, right? But, you know, I think exactly, some people do get carried away. Unfortunately, I have seen the other side of things, you know. And, you know, guys, like, as we always say, you know, we're always here to have a chat about any and all things, you know, and reach out to us if you do want to have a chat and you think that you do have a bit of an issue and you want to sort of manage that. It's important. You know, we're here to talk whiskey, but we're also here just as a community. And I think that that's what's wonderful about the community that we have in particular. But I think by and large, most of the whiskey community as a whole is very good and very open. And you go along to these events and, you know, people will not be shy to be like, sorry, mate, you've had too much. Yeah. First of all, because it's like, you know, people like us who have business, I've got a personal alcohol license, I've got multiple other alcohol licenses. I'm not going to lose my business just feeding you some more alcohol than you need. But secondly, it's just a point of respect. It's like, just take 10 minutes, go and drink some fucking water, relax, you know. Yeah. The brand is going to be here forevermore. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can always try whatever.
Or just
you know,
go
Arran,
home and
Benriach,
save
whatever.
Yourself. You know
the embarrassment. Do you know what I mean? And that's it. No one wants to make a fool of themselves. Anyway, look, we digress.
Let's move on.
We've had two wonderful 10-year-olds.
Very
Benriach,
cool
Arran, similar in style, but really, really great way to start on your journey. This next bottle is from that bar that you mentioned.
Yes.
And I want to give a shout out, Cut Your Wolf Loose. We had Seb on recently and he very kindly shared some incredible drams. So this is where you kind of started working.
Yep.
And got you into, I mean, what? Yeah. Seb's a fucking dude, first of all.
Yeah.
He's been a bit of a mentor to me. As I've gone through my journey, I've learned a lot from him. Really, really friendly guy. And again, we talk about people who are willing to spend their time and share their knowledge and have a chat. He's always been somebody that I can go to for that side of things. Obviously now the bar in Brighton is, I mean, I think his main business. I think he's always got his finger in a few pies. He's always doing a few different bits and pieces and good man himself. But it seems as though the bar is sort of taking off, which is phenomenal. And that's where you started working.
Yeah. So that was the whiskey bar that we first started working with. So that's how, you know, people might see our videos and see that I'm with Seb. That's how I actually first met Seb. And like you said, he's just really great. He has no preconception. It doesn't matter like who you are, where you're from. He's just happy to share. And obviously I had a big interest and he was willing to come on my videos. You know, he was never on videos. He doesn't like being in the limelight. And I was like, oh, like, come on, let's just have a chat for an hour. And we just chat. And he's like, yeah, he's been a blessing, you know, like, yes, we started working with him to produce content, but I'd like to say he's a really good friend. And this is actually the sort of first whiskey that got me into whiskey. So prior to these ones, I didn't want to give you this one to you first, but this was the inaugural release from Cut Your Wolf Loose.
Okay.
The artwork was actually designed by one of my friends called Snub. He's a great graffiti artist in Brighton. You'll see his stuff featured all over. They actually had this label design on the back wall of the bar. So they had a 20-foot giant robot. As soon as this opened, you could walk in and see this 20-foot giant robot through the glass of behind their bar. And the bar's actually really good because a lot of places that you walk in, again, preconception and truth, but some bars you walk in, it's kind of like the record screeches and it's a whiskey bar, everyone's there, they know each other, and you're like, oh shit, like, you know, like, what do I order? Where do I go? There's no prices or anything. And I'm like, is this going to be awkward? I'm going to order a dram. It's going to be 60 quid. But at Cut Your Wolf Loose, when you go there, it's such a welcoming environment. You'll be seeing guys, girls, older, younger, people in vests and shorts, people like dress smarter, people just in, I don't know, rocker gear. There's such an eclectic mix of people and everyone's just so friendly. I've got some really good friends now that I drink with regularly, that I catch up with, that I see all the time from that bar because it's just a really welcoming environment. And this one, unfortunately, I finished. But I had a friend, Zach, who I tapped up, and they very kindly gave me a sample from their bottle to share with you guys. So there's probably only enough for you guys. So I'll pour you guys the little dram to have in your cup. But
that's plenty. Yeah. There should be enough for a wee dram each.
Splash, thank you, mate.
And yeah, so this was my first kind of serious bottle of whiskey.
So when you say your first, so you tried whiskeys before and you'd gone, whiskey's quite nice. Was this your first whiskey where you went, oh fuck, I get it now? So interestingly, not necessarily. This was their first release, and I think it was £80. So it's for those at home, it's a 10-year-old Williamson, which is, we know, Lefroy, finished in a Villa de Couleur butt. And then when they first released it, it was £80. And for me, I was like, £80 on a bottle of whiskey. I was like, that's some sum of money. You know, I the things I bought previously, I was quite a big rum drinker, maybe like Diplomatico, £40, Bronzer Kappa, maybe like 60. And that at £80, I was like, I'm in an Arran. And funny enough, I actually bought I think it was the last bottle that they had. And it was fantastic. I got it home, cracked it open. I was like, wow, this is lovely. But he kind of screwed me over because this is your first whiskey. It's a very indulgent, rich, heavy whiskey. So then you're constantly searching for that. So when I was going then, you know, to the Benriach 10, Arran 10, they're lovely and I enjoy them. I always recommend them as a beginner. But I was like, you know, where's that kind of like richness? Where's that, you know, that depth? And it's a contrast going from like an independently bottled Lefroy, finishing a sweet sherry cask, bottled at cask strength. I was going to say, what is the strength on this? Beautifully integrated, but I feel it's
54.7%.
Okay, I was thinking it's about 55, so okay, I was on the money. Beautifully integrated still, but I wouldn't have been surprised. We've tried quite a few of Seb's, obviously, on the Cut Your Wolf Loose, and some of them were like 60, and it's like, fuck off, this is 60-odd%. This tastes amazing. So I wasn't sure if we were going to have something like that. It's beautifully integrated at 55-odd%. And I can understand why, you know, you try something like this. I think Stevie had a similar sort of, awakening in that he tried a peaty dram that was in like a very rich cask. For me, it was Glendronach that I was like, oh my fucking God, I get it. You know, and heavily sherried whiskey, granted, it is a rich flavor, but maybe a little bit easier to chase down that flavor profile. Yeah. This is luxurious and layered in many different facets. But fascinating. Okay, cool. So all of a sudden, the budget stretched.
Yep.
And you understood that there was value in sometimes, you know, not that you have to spend more. No. You can still enjoy a Benriach 10 and Arran 10, but that spending a bit more money, you would sometimes, in theory, get the value of that, and it was worth it to you.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. It was also, at the bar, they predominantly, or nearly solely, stock independent bottlers. So you go through the bar and it's all indie bottlers. So my first experience was a lot of independent bottlers. I didn't have a lot of distillery own releases, you know, and it was nice because I got to try different brands, different whiskies from all these, you know. I was like, right, Seb, you pick a good good bottle. Let me try your other brand, his Artful Dodger brand. And I was like, I've got a similar palate to you. What you've been bottling, I actually like that as well. And it's a good way to discover more and more whiskies. But this one was, it was fantastic. Like you said, suddenly your budget stretches. And in all my videos, my budget, how I sit at the moment, is £100. I've spent just over that before on a couple bottles, but for me personally, I set myself a budget. I want to buy one bottle a month, and the max I want to spend really is £100. Okay. Because at the beginning of my whiskey journey, I remember one month, and I was like, "Where's all my money gone?" I was like, I looked at my bank statement. I was like, "I've got no money at the end of the month." I was like, "Where's it all gone?" And I thought I was buying, one bottle every 4 weeks or so, but it wasn't. I was buying like a bottle and then another bottle the following week and that. And suddenly you could spiral. You suddenly spent £600 in a month on whiskey.
You don't have to tell me.
And you're not going to... Yeah.
I still haven't found the balance.
Yeah.
I see something I want and I get it.
Yeah.
I'll regret it later.
Yeah. So I just... Now I have my limit. And again, I'll stretch it depending on what bottles are. But for me, I like to try and keep quite strict to make sure that I'm not overflowing. And currently we're in a situation with my girlfriend where she's like, you got whiskey in the cereal cupboard, you got whiskey on the shelves, like, right, no more. Because you can't drink it at the pace that you want to buy it. And there's so many releases out there now that you want to try. There's so many exciting things. But a whole bottle is a lot of juice to drink, this took me ages to go through this. I've still got some left of that.
Right.
But again, you're constantly acquiring more and more bottles. But yeah, as a sort of first serious dram, it was fantastic. I loved it.
So what do you get from this? I'm fascinated to hear. And is what you've got from this changed over time? Now coming back to it again, having finished your own bottle, having another sample, do you feel your palate has developed to a point where you're tasting more? Or is it still just that beautiful juice that you were getting to begin with? What's your...
So for me, I find it quite like on the nose, on the palate. Like on the nose, I get sort of like Marmite. Sort of like Marmite-ness with like a slight sweetness to it. So I'd say Marmite with some sort of like strawberry syrup into it.
Okay. But
tasting it, I get this kind of bit of smoke in your mouth and then a sweetness after, which is kind of akin to me to like a smoked ham or something like that, like a slight contrast between a meaty and sweet. And it's one of those things that I like because I taste a bit of the smoke on the finish and then I want to sip it again. Do I get that at the beginning? Do I get the sweetness at the beginning? And constantly sipping more and more. But I remember when I first tried it, it was very sweet. Very, very sweet, compared to some of the other ones. But yeah, just loved it. I wish I would have bought more, and they had it when they first released, and we were talking earlier about, mixed it with water, adding ice, mixing a cocktail. They had it on the cocktail menu. You could have that mixed in a cocktail for like £10. It was, I can't remember the exact makeup of it, but they shifted so much through as cocktails. And some people might be like, what? This is the inaugural release. You should be praying to this, put it in the corner. You know what it's like these days with distillery release and inaugural release. And they were like, no, we want to get people drinking.
Big bullshit, stand up in a cocktail so nicely. You can make some really nice recipes with this, I bet. What are you thinking, Stevie?
Yeah, I like it. There's something in here, like an aftershave.
Aftershave, is it? Oh, you reckon?
I don't know if it's the glass that I have, but there's something here in the middle of all that meaty, sweet smoke. It's a very very rich and bolshy dram, right? Yeah. Especially when you come from the Jayac and the Arran, but there's something in here that's really throwing me off. I don't know if... Yeah, it's the glass. Are you getting any... Is there any sort of notes like that for you?
I'm not getting... No, not an aftershave-y cologne-y thing. No, I'm getting... It's oily, it's rich, it's juicy to begin with, but then you get this, like, damp, dirty vet's flannel sort of scenario going on, which sounds bad, but I love it. And this, beautiful sort of...
Is there no weird spice in there for you?
Smoke.
Any sort of kind of like clovey or
clove maybe.
Lavendery.
Yeah, a little bit clovey sort of thing.
It's very unusual, that note in there. The rest of it's lovely. Like, and for £8, you probably wish you got a few now, really.
Yeah, I mean, I just sat through and drank it, and I think that's as soon as I buy a bottle, I try to open it straight away because I don't want to be precious about it. It's very easy when you buy a bottle to be like, oh, suddenly, this is sold out. Nobody else can get it. Oh, but you bought it to drink it. And I remember I had a really good tasting with the Ardnamurchan guys, with Connell and Graham. And they were saying that they don't produce bottles to sit on shelves. They're like, we're not producing glass. That's not our job. We're not producing glass. It's not a decoration. We're producing a liquid, and we want it for people to drink. And I took away from that, and I was like, 100%. You know, you could spend 80 quid in this bottle, but in reality, why don't you just buy a glass bottle like that and fill it with some caramelly water and put it on your shelf? Nobody's going to know the difference. Oh,
I don't know if I agree entirely. I definitely get where you're coming from. For me, most of our bottles go straight away open onto the shelves here. It's a selection. It's to be enjoyed, and I completely agree. However, my collection of whiskies, although it's not very big, is something I love having displayed up there because it's something to look forward to. Do you know what I mean?
Each to their own.
And I love being able. And some bottles, for example, I've got the Springbank Countdown collection bottles. Now they're $2.5 grand a pop.
Yeah.
Now I've got the first two. Already that's 5 bands. I'm not just fucking opening them any day. Do you know what I mean? I almost feel like I don't deserve them yet. You know, I need to earn that shit.
Well, you need to forget what the money you spent on them before.
Correct. I need to earn so much money that it becomes an irrelevance. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we get there.
Grows,
but equally, for example, we bought we had Seb here, and we didn't actually get to try this one. So thank you so much. He bought along the signed bottle of this, and we were looking at it like, fuck it. But fair play, of course. He wants to keep at least one in the collection.
I've heard a lot about it, actually.
And we've heard we've heard quite a lot about this one, and it's great to try it. So thank you so much, and thank you to your friend who sent the sample.
No problems.
We tried the Ardbeg that day.
That's nice, yeah.
Phenomenal.
Love that.
And I bought a bottle straight away. We finished shooting, and I was like, cool,
It's so bloody good,
bye,
that dram.
done. And again, it's like, I will open that much sooner than I'll open, for example, my Springbank Countdown collection or my Grandeurs. I'm waiting till I have all of them, and then I'll open them all. That's something that I'm working towards. But that is the sort of thing I will open, but I want to open it at the right time with the right people.
Yeah.
Because if I open it now by myself, I live up in Scotland, I probably wouldn't even get to fucking share it with Stevie by the next time I see him, because it'll all be gone, because I'll just go, oh, this is good. Oh, just a drop more. And then, the week's gone by, and I was, oh, fuck, I finished my bottle of Ardbeg, So I think there is something for me about having a nice collection. I keep it trimmed. It's a very well maintained collection.
I'm the opposite to you, mate. I can't have them on display.
Yeah.
Teasing me.
Yeah.
I actually hide all my good bottles right at the back of the cupboards. Actually, there's some in the attic. There's some just hidden. Every now and then,
I have to do that with some of them.
There's a shelf in my living room that just has books up it, but it's high shelf.
Yeah.
And every now and then I go up there, and at the back of it, there's 2 bottles of the 20... Is it the 6-year-old Springers, the little 50 centilitres? Was it 26 or 28?
Oh,
28.
28. You got 2 of them still.
And every now and then I brush, what's in this box? And there's 2 sealed bottles of those 28-year-old Springers.
Man.
And I go, no, I'll put them back.
Dude, yeah, straight
Put
up.
them
You
back.
drink that in a fucking afternoon by yourself.
Yeah. But no, having them on display would be...
In fairness, I do have,
dangerous for me.
my Grandeurs are tucked away, thinking about it. My Springbank collection is tucked away, because I get carried away. You open one and then you go, I'll just open another.
Yep.
I opened a Springbank Burgundy recently, and I've got a few of them, but hadn't had one for a minute, so we opened one up, and we sent a sample out there to was it Jason? Jason, shout out if you're listening. I hope you enjoyed that. And this is it. It's what it's all about, right? Sharing. But you can easily get carried away.
I think what's great about that Williamson, especially when you're new into whiskey, is it's very challenging, and it's very different to anything you've had before, alcohol-wise. Really.
And I love what you said, exactly, actually. That's such a good point, Stevie. You said you tried it, and then you were like hunting for something.
Yeah.
And what that does is it drives you to go and try more.
Yeah.
Where else am I going to find this flavour? And you'll talk to people, did you try that? And all of a sudden, you're a geek.
Yeah.
You're one of us. Exactly. You've got an issue, maybe a little bit. But that's it. It's an issue of passion. It's an issue of, I need to find something similar. I need to find something that's going to challenge me in the same way. And like I say, we all had our moments. I was lucky enough to be there in a hotel room in Glasgow. Don't worry, nothing weird happened. But with Stevie, where the first time he tried a whiskey, and he just went, oh my God. And genuinely, there are a few moments in life where you get to share that level of excitement with someone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like a kid realizing, whatever it is. I don't know. Sorry, terrible example because I can't finish that.
I've got an example, but I don't think it's...
Yeah, no, maybe don't. I know what you're like. But no,
when you're introduced to something that's very different...
Exactly.
And, you then... I want that again.
Yeah. I think you've said it all there, haven't you? Jayac's watched this fucking show a couple of times. He knows where things are going.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about either, to be honest. Do you know what we're talking about? Drop in the comments. I don't know. Moving on, let's go to the Springbank, because I think what's cool about the Springbank, and it's interesting to see that you've included it there in the lineup of kind of like a journey into whiskey, as we're dubbing this, Springbank is one that a lot of people who are new to whiskey maybe want to try, but then a lot of people are a little bit frustrated by the accessibility and sometimes the price. I mean, big shout out to Springbank and the whole team down there in Campbelltown, J&A Mitchell throughout, Glengyle, Springbank and Cadenhead. They always price their stuff very fairly, and it's really, really phenomenal gear. However, buying it elsewhere, sometimes you see shops marking it up at extortionate rates, and it's painful.
Oh, you can't get this though, really, that easily at all.
No, you do generally have to either know someone in a shop or buy it in a bar. Thank you very much, you're a gent. Buy it in a bar, or if you're lucky enough, and I couldn't suggest anything more highly, travel down or up to Campbelltown and, fill your boots whilst you're there. But you're right, it's difficult to find this sort of gear.
Where did you find this? Because you would have got this in the last year or two.
So I got this from a shop. I walked in, they had Springbank 10 on the shelf. They had some Kilkerrans. And funny enough, so my videos I use as a log on my journey. The first time I ever tried Springbank, Tipples in Manchester, which is a bottle shop, they sell tasting sets. Mm-hmm. And you could buy the full range of Springbank. They don't do it anymore. This was a few years ago. But I remember, doing all my videos, trying them, and did it. And I walked into the shop, I was like, oh, they got Springbank. I was like, which one was it I liked? So I went TikTok, searched Springbank, Whisky Amateur. Then I went through a video. I was like, gave that one a really high rating. So I was like, I don't suppose you guys have the Springbank 15 in stock. The guy looks at me and he goes, give me 1 second. He walks at the back, comes back and goes, here you go. I was like, okay, thank you. But I'd actually been in the shop because they had their own bottling. It's actually Good Spirits Company, which is in Glasgow. Really great whiskey shop, and really great. They bottle their own stuff as well. But I had been speaking to the guy before, and they had some of their own release. So I think maybe it's because he knew I had an interest in whiskey. Yeah. I wasn't just in there being like, right, where's Springbank 15?
Turning up and
Yeah. I didn't even clock it till I was literally walking around. But I think, they had it tucked away. And then if you had an interest in whiskey, then I picked it up and then got my mate to post it down to me. But this was sort of the next sort of step. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with Springbank. Like, I love the liquid. I just hate the sort of scarcity and the struggle it is to get it. I personally don't buy anything over retail unless it's maybe like a $5 or something like that on it. I think there's so much liquid out there. And it's a real big shame because this bottle is £75, I think. But you see it sold for, 120 quid plus. And it's like, well, I don't want to pay 120 quid for it. It's a £75 bottle of whiskey. Yeah. And it's just a shame that it's just not easier to get,
No, look, I hear that.
What did you pay for this out of interest?
75. Yeah.
Sorry, 75?
So think it was 75.
Yeah,
70,
yeah.
75.
I think I've told the story before, maybe to you and to you at home, I think, as well. But I think it was about a year or two ago, I walked into our wine rack down the road, and there was the Springbank 15 sitting on the shelf, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I really couldn't. And it was £67.50.
Oh, really?
Just fucking got it. And then I spent the afternoon calling every single wine rack in the UK, being like, do you have any Springbanks? They would just know what I was talking about. They're like, what's that? Is it a beer? Or I was like, oh, don't worry. But but apart from that, that's the only bottle I bought because can't get it. And I'm not going to pay 120 quid, 150 quid, whatever it's going for on auction. Look, it's lovely, but for me, it doesn't warrant that. And you're right, it is a shame. It's not really Springbank's fault. I think
this is the thing. I think there's two sides to that coin. I think, yes, it's a shame, but it's not accessible. And we shouldn't be, and none of us do, buy into the whole, push that whole flippers market forward by buying into it at 120, 150, whatever sort of silly money people try and sell it for. And you shouldn't pay that sort of money for it. It's a beautiful whiskey, but don't encourage that sort of behaviour. It's worth £75. It's delicious at £75. And I think the scarcity of it, whilst perhaps something that is a little bit frustrating as somebody who's passionate about Springbank. It makes it a special treat.
It's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that, it's something I say all the time. I think that whiskey, first of all, is an expensive drink, and I think some things need to be priced higher than some people's budget stretch to, and unfortunately that's the way it is. Whiskey, unlike gin or vodka, you're talking multiple years. I mean, we're talking here 15 years in oak, at least. This is a lot of time, a lot of dedication, huge amounts of knowledge going into producing this, and I think that unfortunately, some people aren't going to be able to stretch to certain bottles of whiskey, whether it's this or something more high end or whatever. And I think that whiskey it is a premium product, and I think that there is an element of that. There is, and equally, I think that, whilst there is something great about a Glenlivet or a Benriach, you can walk into a supermarket and you can buy it off the shelf. I think there is something to be said for something a bit more specialist like Springbank, where it's a special treat.
This is core range, though, Jake.
Sorry?
This is a core range bottle. It should
core range product,
not be that kind of inaccessible. I disagree a little bit.
Well, tough tits, mate. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean?
No, of course it is. And I think that will change in the coming years.
They're producing 40% of their capacity.
Well, that's the other thing, right? You've got to understand is they're not pumping out a lot, and you've also got to understand that most of it goes abroad.
Yeah.
We get
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, dude, we get like 10, 20%.
Of it goes to America.
Really?
Yep, like 80% or around that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we get fuck all allocation over here. I mean, obviously, if you're in the society.
Yeah.
Were you in the society?
No.
Are you in the society?
Of course I'm in the society. Yeah. I wouldn't miss out on it. But no, that's the thing. If you're lucky enough to have been in the society, happy days. But
you still can't get 15 if you're in the society.
No, I know. But you get some other bits and pieces is what I'm saying. Or you at least get access to potentially get some other bits and pieces.
Yes, you do. That is a good point.
But yeah, it is what it is. And I kind of like the fact that it's not easily accessible.
But what is accessible, though, from Springbank?
Well, funny that you should ask. I haven't been allowed to feature this in so many episodes because Stevie and Ian get frustrated with me. This isn't a plug. We don't get paid for it. If you think we should be paid for it, then let us know. Campbelltown Log. Here it is again, making a fucking appearance. I wanted to bring this, and it's great that you've got the Springbank 15, and it's great that we're having this conversation about accessibility because some things aren't accessible. I think that this is a phenomenal substitute, though. This is a blended malt whiskey. They're doing it in batches. What are we saying? 35 quid, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
It's fucking phenomenal.
You can get it on
value
Amazon
for money.
now.
You can get it on Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's just, it's great stuff. And I think, if you are a bit of a whinger like Stevie, I can't get Springbank 15 enough. Fuck off.
I've got a bottle.
Go buy a Campbelltown Lock. Do you know what I mean? It's just great. It's really, really high quality. And again, we're talking about price points. Completely appreciate some people don't want to stretch to £75. That's a big jump up.
It's been taken off.
I'm not surprised by that. I didn't think it would last long.
It was on there.
£35.
Great
You're
price,
less than 50% of the 15, and I'd say it's still just as good quality. Really, really great liquid. Yes, it's non-age statement, but who gives a shit when it tastes this good? I'd say get it on your shelf. So as a beginner, if you are starting out, you're relatively new on your journey, you've tried something like the Benriach, something like the Arran, maybe you're looking for something a little bit more interesting, that Campbelltown funk to it, the oiliness, the rich cask influence. This is something I can definitely recommend that will fit within your budget and that you should, in theory, be able to pick up with a little bit more ease than the Springbank core range. So, yeah, no, look, I think the 15 is a phenomenal dram. And thank you for bringing it because it's been a minute since I've tried it.
Oh, no, you can get it.
Campbelltown Lock on Amazon.
It's 41 quid now.
40 quid.
Yeah.
Even at 40 quid, mate.
You guys are causing the rush for it, Let's go on.
I don't know about that. But yeah, listen.
Was it Ralphie's Dram of the Year? Or I know he rated it highly.
Yeah, what do you mean, Ralphie? It was our dram of the year, mate.
I think, no, but there was lots of others that popped up saying...
Of course, because it's brilliant. It is brilliant. I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of reviewers, influencers, whatever they want to call themselves, are talking about this because it's great. It's fantastic quality and it's fantastic value for money. Yeah, I love this though.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on it in terms of Flavor,
what tasting
price,
notes?
yeah, flavor, price. You know, is the quality there for the price? Is it worth the scarcity? And
yeah, I like the fact that it's a bit scarce. So happy to pay £75 for it. Definitely, like we say, I wouldn't be paying more than that. I don't want to encourage that flippers market. If I buy them, I keep them, I open them, I enjoy them with friends, as you have done, and everyone should do. You know, getting 30, 40, 50 quid on the back of it. It's just. I mean, if you're really tight up, then look, who am I to judge? I don't see the value in that. I see much more value in doing what we're doing, enjoying it with some friends. Again, kind of similar to the last one, very rich, oily mouthfeel.
That kind of MOT.
Yeah, sootiness.
Sootiness, but there's a lovely subtle sweetness under it all as well, just holding it together.
Oh, I wouldn't say subtle at all. I think it's beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, quite a rich sweetness and smoke and sootiness and
it's, and we say this a lot, it is so well balanced though, this one.
Yeah.
Like perfectly. Just
nice.
all of those things, hanging out together and getting on.
What a dram. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yum.
Do you buy much more Springbank?
No, to be honest, that's the only out of the ones that I tried from the tasting set. That's the only one really that I enjoyed. I'm not really a big fan of the 10.
I sent you the 10, didn't I? No, the 8. The stuff that looked like Coca-Cola.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't remember now. Mm-hmm. I did recently buy the Kilkerran 8-year. What was that? Was that the sherry? Yeah, bought that. Big fan of Kilkerran. When I did a filming project in London with some people from overseas, and I wanted to have a whiskey for people to sip, something to enjoy, because it's my passion, but I knew they weren't necessarily whiskey drinkers. So for that, I went to the local shop. I forgot what it was, but they had Kilkerran 12. And Kilkerran 12 is readily available. It's like £45, but it's a really nice whiskey, especially for people who don't previously drink much whiskey before. It was a nice. I enjoy that. It's something that's easier to get. I think a lot of people sort of sleep on Kilkerran. Springbank they go crazy for, but Kilkerran is still in stock. I don't really understand why. I feel like Kilkerran is still really quality, high quality liquid. But for me personally, from what they released, this is my pick.
Cool.
My pick.
What's the thing at the bottom there?
Oh, so when we went up to Scotland, it was to see my friend, and I'd flew up, but I didn't have baggage, so I couldn't take this back on the flight with me. So my friend posted it back to me, but we'd actually been to the Johnny Walker experience, which if you haven't been, is actually a really good experience. Even for people who know a lot about whiskey, I kind of liken it to the Disneyland of the whiskey world.
I've heard
that. It's very, there's actors there, there's all flashing lights. They've obviously pumped a lot of money into it. It's actually, really good experience. But he just stuck it on there, and it's on so tight that I can't really take it off. But it kind of reminds me of the time in which we went to the Johnny Walker experience and then went around Glasgow and bought this bottle. So I kept it on there for sort of sentimental.
Cool.
Sentimental. I like it. What are we on to next then? Little Brown Dog.
Little Brown Dog. So Little Brown Dog, whether you guys know or not, are an independent bottler. They bottle a really good liquid. I really like their stuff, to be honest.
Who is it that owns this? It's I can't remember now. Need to look this up. Jake, you know who it is?
Sorry?
You know who owns this?
Do I know who owns this?
I think you do.
As in, do I know them personally?
I think so. So this is a little bit later on, or is this something early on still in your
So this is kind of catching up nearer to the more present time. So this is Ardnamurchan. This is a 7-year Ardnamurchan, peated Ardnamurchan in a refill sherry cask, bottled at 61.1%. So again, like a really punchy whiskey.
Sorry, it's not. Sorry to interrupt though. It's someone Jack knows, isn't it? It's a friend of Jack's anyway.
But Ardnamurchan.
Yeah.
Shout out Jack.
Ciao, Jack.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, I don't
what
think
are you talking about?
I don't think I do know these people personally, but yeah.
But Ardnamurchan, I think, as a newish distillery, I'm a big fan of their liquid. I think the liquid they put out is really good, even though it's relatively young. It's
people chase.
It's really good, and to be honest, again, it's probably a sort of sentimental. This is very sentimental. This has got sentimental because of the experience. And this Ardnamurchan is because it was one of the first tastings that I went to at Cut Your Wolf Loose. And Graham and Connell they're just so funny. They're just so funny and so welcoming. I didn't really know much at the time. You could ask them any questions. They were making jokes all the time. So I'm a big fan of Ardnamurchan. And this little brown dog one, I went in a whiskey bar and I drank it and I was like, this is fantastic. To me, it's very like fizzy cola bottle sweets. Okay. And then went to buy it online, couldn't find it anywhere. But luckily, one of the whiskey groups I'm in, someone had a spare bottle and he was like, you can have mine if you want. So yeah, I bought the bottle.
I like that cola bottle sweet note.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting that. There's a bit of spice here too, which is maybe where your fizziness is coming from.
It's actually, it's interesting. I like Ardnamurchan, so I don't want what I'm about to say to come off as negative, but I feel like there's a huge hype around it.
Yes.
And I don't think it's quite there yet. Like, it's got the potential, and I think what they're doing is great. Like I say, a big supporter of it. Don't want to be negative, but like, for example, this to me isn't there yet. It's a good showcase of what's happening, but it's not like, to me, a finished product. It's far too hot on the nose.
Interesting.
Sorry, what ABV we are?
61.7, I think.
So this is cask strength.
61.1.
I'm going to have a toy around with this and water it down in a minute. The palate is nice. It's interesting. Fizzy cola is not really something I would ever, but I know exactly what you mean. I mean, Inception, right? But still, definitely, it's on those lines.
I'm going to raise your fizzy cola. And you remember those little Guinness jelly sweets? Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're so good, by the way. I didn't get some, but
I've never tried them.
But yeah, I'm going to add some water to this.
Yeah, I have to, honestly, 100%, 61%.
Because, yeah, the alcohol...
It's hot.
It's it's overtaking probably what's probably quite a lot of flavour in there.
But that's the nice thing, like you said, you know,
at least you've got the choice.
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier about that and the hyper distillery and stuff, you know, we don't all like the same things, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think some people get a bit scared to say they don't like something, and if someone gives you something to try, you know, I say it's not my type of palate, but some people like Italian food, some people like Chinese food, some people like Korean food. You know, everyone has different palates. You know, there's not one whiskey for everyone, and there's a reason why there's so many different whiskey brands out there.
There
Absolutely.
we go.
Absolutely. Dib. No, look, like I say, I do like Ardnamurchan. I just personally feel like there is more to come as it gets older.
Progresses.
You know, exactly.
There's a lot of flavour in here.
7-year-old,
nice.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah.
This is nice with some water. Really,
the nose
opens
calms
up.
down a good bit.
Yep.
It's still lively though. It's still very lively, and I'm still getting a good bit of nose.
Well, I think.
Just
is this a finish? What what details do they give?
It's a refill sherry.
Okay.
Peated refill sherry, but do you know what? I actually don't know if it's finished or if that's.
So it's Ardnamurchan. It's not peated.
Yeah,
spirit.
It's peated. This is peated Ardnamurchan. So they have unpeated and they have peated Ardnamurchan.
And they call this a peated.
And this one is
sherry.
Yeah. So this is peated Ardnamurchan
in
a refill sherry cask.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Price point?
£90.
I mean, with the ABV, but. And the little brown dog, are they quite sought after bottles as well in general? They
release a Wee Mongrel, which is a blend, which people seem to go crazy for.
Okay.
I'm not sure if the last blend people had such the
good
affinity for it. Yeah. But no, you can get a lot of their bottles quite readily available. You know, they've had Arrans, they've had my favourite actually from them is they had a whiskey called Wee Brunku, which was Cameron Bridge. I want to say it was like a 27-year-old Cameron Bridge or something like that, but it was lovely. It was like chocolatey. It's, you know, obviously being a grain whiskey, it's very like creamy. I'm a big fan of grain. Not a lot of people like grain. I don't know. I'm fairly new into the industry. From what I can understand is people see grain a lot as like a filler whiskey, whereas I think it's a really nice, easy sipper, creamy, porridgey, honey, that sort of thing. And their Cameron Bridge was like fantastic. And again, like I sent samples to so many people. You know, I'm quite open. If someone chats to me and stuff, I'm like, oh, you know, you learn about whiskey as well. Here, let me just send you a little care package. I'll send them a care package, and then they're like, oh, let me send you. I said, no, I'm not sending it to you because I want something. I'm doing it because I want to introduce, people with it. And I can't drink all my whiskey, like I can't finish it. I don't drink like that quickly enough. So I'm happy to
give bottles
share.
away to friends just to make room for new ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Running out of space.
Yeah. And people are always surprised. They're like, thank you. And I'm like, whiskey's here to be shared. I'm a big believer that, it's, I don't want to be sitting at home, crying, sipping whiskey. I want to have like a room full of friends, having a laugh, trying through the spectrum. And even we went on the stag do recently and I took a load of whiskey and I was like, hey guys, if you want to do a tasting, let's run through it. If you don't like it, chuck it away. But yeah, for me, like I've had this bottle and I had the Cameron Bridge, but yeah, for me, I just really like the spirit. For me, it's, it's cola-y, it's sweet, it's got high ABV. I think, like you said, £90 for a lot of people is very expensive. And when you put 7-year, a lot of people are saying like, 7-year whiskey for £90, that's a lot of money. And I think for a lot of new distilleries, they somewhat shoot themselves in the foot because you see some new distilleries, I don't want to say Ardnamurchan, but some of these newer ones are opening every day, it seems. They release a 3-year-old, 4-year-old whiskey and they charge it at like £70. And you're like, okay, so when you get to 7-year, you're going to be like 110. When you get to 10-year, you're going to be like a £200 bottle of whiskey. And
I've seen some stupid prices.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, I've only been in whiskey for just over 2 years, but the pricing's going like this. My budget's extended, and you can get a lot of good whiskey for a lower price. Don't get me wrong, but it seems that the pricing's going up and up and up quite severely, quite quickly.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think a lot of the newer distilleries are a little bit potentially naive as to what can be expected. And I wouldn't include Ardnamurchan in that. And they've got a great following, which is fantastic to see. I think they're going on 10 years old now, or they are 10 years old?
I think so, yeah. I think they're about to release a 10 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they're in that kind of realm. I can't remember exactly. And I think that it's great liquid that's going to get better. I personally, this being peated spirit, for example, we talk about lag. We've obviously done a lag episode. We visited Lag Distillery. I think the lag sings at 4 or 5 years old, as it fucking is. Absolutely spot the fuck on.
Yeah.
To me, it's a nice jam. I think you definitely, I don't know, you've incepted me. Whether I would have got cola bottles or not, I don't know. I don't think I've ever really got that from a whiskey before. It's kind of all I'm tasting. And now that I've put some water into it, it's actually really brought that out even like to a heavier level.
Yeah.
Which is a nice tasting though. It's interesting. I don't feel like this is there yet.
Yeah.
I don't want to be negative on it.
No.
But, everything's subjective. It's all personal.
100%, yeah.
And I think that for me, I think that there's maybe leave it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just this particular cask. This is a single cask.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just this one. And I haven't tried a huge amount of Ardnamurchan. I personally think that from what I have tried of Ardnamurchan, it's going to be really great around that kind of 15-year-old age statement. It's going to be beautiful. But for me, this one isn't exciting me as much. You know me, I love a peated whiskey, especially in a sherry cask. It's a little bit one-dimensional for me at the moment. I don't want to sound negative on it.
No, mate,
it's nice to try, and I appreciate.
No. I'm not precious about any of this. If someone tries and they don't like it, that's absolutely. If you want to pour it away, chuck away. It doesn't.
No, I'm leaving it in the glass. I want to keep coming back to it for a minute. It's interesting me. It's got my attention. And like I say, I'm not sure if you've incepted me and now I'm not being able to overlook that. Normally I'm quite good with being able to overlook a tasting note and keep going, but I'm not getting huge amounts of flavour.
Yeah.
The peat is nice. It's interesting. I'm slowly adding water and seeing how it opens up.
Yeah.
People would think you're talking about bourbon in your glass there, mate. The way you're going on about it.
It's a bit one-dimensional. Yeah. Oh, look, comment drop a comment below, guys. Let us know what you think of Ardnamurchan, because I'm fully aware that it has a phenomenal following, and I've got a lot of respect for what they're doing there. I think it's a great distillery. Equally, Little Brown Dog, have you tried any of their expressions before? I certainly have, and I think that some of them are absolutely fantastic. This one, not quite doing it for me, but if you've tried it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you get the cola bottles that Jayac has suggested to me, and now that I cannot seem to shake?
Yeah.
Maybe you do, and maybe that's something you love. But as I've already said, I'm not a big fan of Coca-Cola. And there's just something about this that's a little bit, I can't quite get my head around it. Interesting though. And I'm going to leave it in the glass as we continue dramming. It's great though. You've got quite a diverse little collection here. Go on, sorry, Stevie, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say and I'm not far behind you in terms of like when I started getting into whiskey, but it's interesting to see, and there'll be a lot of people at home that have been into whiskey for decades, right? And I'm sure their lineup looks very different. But what I like, what is great to see here, and probably in a lot of people now getting into whiskey, is there is diversity. There is lots of places to go, like your channel and stuff, to find out, what shall I get, or if we're a bit unsure, where to start. It's just diverse. It's a great little lineup, and it's great that you got into these whiskies first. That's kind of what I'm trying to say here. Whereas maybe when you got in, as you say, way back, maybe a Macallan, maybe a Glenlivet, they were very, very, very standard whiskies. These are not your stereotypical whiskies that you probably started on 5, 10, 15, 50 years ago, For
sure. Yeah, no, I think a lot of people wouldn't start. And I think having spoken with you sort of online before, I think you kind of had a similar introduction into whiskey because you've obviously, Seb as an independent bottler.
That helps.
He's always had these little and so I find that my introduction into whiskey is often very unrelatable. And I think that maybe people will look at this and be like, that's quite a diverse, my start wasn't anything like that. I think that we are all quite lucky in that way that we've had that access to the industry side of things, that maybe our starts have been a little bit more dynamic. But I think what your lineup here shows as, three...
It's a sign of things to come with the generation getting into whiskey. That's what I'm trying to say here.
100%. But I think what's great about what you've got here is you've got 3 core range products from great brands and great distilleries, and some accessible in the supermarket, some you have to hunt down a little bit more. But you've also got 2 really great independent bottlings, and we're going to come on to the last secret dram in a minute. But you've got 2 independent bottlings. And as an independent bottler, I can only recommend that you go and buy some independent bottles. But I wouldn't say that from a point of view of buy the whiskey brand. Buy any independent bottles. Get down to bars like Cut Your Wolf Loose, because what you're going to get there is some real diversity, as you highlighted with the first one and with this one, really. But it's, often cask strength or higher strength versions of something, often weird and wonderful casks that kind of stand out and apart from the core range of products. And all of a sudden, you maybe will find something, as you did with that Williamson, where it goes, fuck, I need to now hunt something down here. And all of a sudden, once you find something that you're on a fucking journey with and you want to hunt down, the amount of experience that you can fit into a small space of time because of that passion and that, that willingness to chase, it just expands your palette and your whole journey so much quicker. So I think it's a really interesting lineup, and I agree with you, Stevie. I think, it'd be interesting to hear how you guys started at home. Let us know, what were the first 3, 4, 5 drams that you started with that got you into whiskey? Does it look a little bit like Jayac's journey here, or is it different?
All right, should we have a roundup? And while we have a roundup, do you want to share this secret dram that you've been...
Mystery dram.
The label's been turned away from us this whole time.
Well, it's just to change preconception, because again, I think it's very easy. And you guys had Chimmer, and Chimmer came and did it blind. And I think that's such a great way to try whiskey, because we come with a preconception. Someone tells you this is a 20-year-old Macallan, this is worth £1,000 a bottle. You're like, you try it and you're like, oh my God, this is good whiskey. But if someone gave it to you without saying that and gave you something that, like you said, with the Campbelltown Lock, you don't tell someone that's a blend. You don't tell them it's a £30 whiskey. If you told them, oh, this is a £200 bottle, try this, what do you think? Someone's probably like, oh yeah, this is fantastic. And then you turn around and tell them it's 30. So yeah, I just wanted to leave this one as like a little mystery, just to test your palates in a way.
All right. He's trying to catch us out, mate.
No.
So this is 12-year-old Bamore in a different bottle.
Correct.
Fair enough. No, I'm interested.
But like you were saying earlier about indie bottlers, I think indie bottlers are great because there's such a breadth of different finishes, such a breadth of different ages. Benriach are somewhat limited to what they release. They've got their set regime of, they got the 10, 12, 15. They can have an interesting cask finishes, and you see more distilleries releasing interesting cask finishes. But, a few years ago, there weren't as many, single cask, port finishes, certain types of sherry. Now it's a lot more frequent, but indies give you the whole breadth, sauternes, port. The thing I really like is that they can give you the information. You reach out to a brand and say, what was this actually? It says sherry cask, but what sherry cask was it? They might tell you, oh, this is from Jerez, or a wine cask, this is your Lumber wine cask. Whereas sometimes distillery brands, there'll be seasoned cask. And I think that's something that coming into whiskey is knowing the difference between an aged liquid. Like this Williamson, I actually tasted the liquid that the Vina de Couleur was. Oh my God, it was like tar. It looked like black syrup. But it's interesting to be able to speak to Seb and say, what was this aged? And he'd be like, oh, let me tell you, this is what it was. It's nice to get that information. Whereas Benriach, if I contacted them, I think they'll probably say something like seasoned cask. You don't really know the provenance of it, how long maybe that sherry was in it for. Whereas, a lot of indies, they're a little bit more independent. Like yourself, I'm sure if someone reached out to you and said, you finished this cask in, how long was it in there? How many months? And you could turn around and say, well, it was actually 18 months. The reason why is because of this.
Yeah, definitely.
And I encourage people to reach out to brands, reach out to ambassadors, to the owners. People are very willing in the whiskey industry to share their knowledge, especially if you've got a passion for it. People are willing; they want to speak to you. If you go in there and say, "Oh, what's your most expensive thing?" They're like, "Okay, well, this is it." And you see that sometimes at whiskey festivals. People say, "Give me your most expensive dram," and they're like, "See ya," But if you show a passion, you're like, how long has this been matured for? What have you got upcoming? And I've found personally that people are very open, and they're very open to sharing their knowledge and sharing their information about their whiskey.
Sure.
Definitely.
For sure.
On approach, this is
rubber,
latex.
Oh,
on approach,
high alcohol.
Oh, interesting.
I get this popcorn vibe straight
See, now I get both. It's that Inception game.
You say you are wrong. No, you're wrong.
No, you're wrong. It's rubber.
See, I get like latexy popcorn now, and I think it's because what you guys just said. Like,
sweet and salty popcorn.
It's like party shop balloons.
What'd you say?
Party shop balloons.
Party shop balloons.
Rest in peace.
I think I have a feel for what this is. I have a feel for what this is, and I'm really interested to know if I'm right. But on first approach, my opinion is that this is a second fill, third fill. I want to say like a Bordeaux style cask, like a winey style cask.
That's exactly my first thought too.
Because it's got this cask. Kind of...
and that's
Hey, listen, I'm really interested to know if I'm wrong here. It tastes quite similar to a bottle that we've done there recently, private bottling that we've done for a client of mine. And it was an Ardnamurchan, an English whiskey in Burgundy wine.
Oh, here we go. Struck match right there at the end.
Yeah.
Really strong struck match. So.
Yeah, you've got a little bit of sulphur on it, exactly. But you've got some tannins in there. But I want to say refill just because the colour isn't there. I'm assuming that this is natural colour.
Yeah.
This is the English, isn't it? And I just know that from the bottle.
So, age.
Am I right on that?
Jake?
Yeah, okay.
Where are you at age-wise?
So it's the English, so I'm going to assume...
So it's not going to be any older
So I'm now going to assume that it's younger, sort of 7 to 10. I'm going to say 7 or 8.
It's 11.
It's 11?
11.
Okay.
I would have liked to have guessed, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
And he was going to guess 11. Fucking hell, he's taking the win away from him.
1 point for me.
Let's scrub that back again, sorry. Let's edit that.
No, yeah.
So how old do you think that is?
That's interesting. I would have guessed a little bit younger, but I'm just going on a preconception based on the fact I'm thinking...
And what liquid do you think it is?
Well, I've no.
Yeah, damn it.
It is the English.
But
yeah,
what's really interesting is the sulphur here. ABV, where you at? I don't think it's as high as we think.
58.
No.
You think it's lower?
I'm going to go 51. Where we at?
57.9.
Ooh, fuck
One
you,
off.
buddy.
Fuck with me, motherfucker.
He knows his whiskey.
Mr. Sunglasses over there. Jake went a fight last night.
So you thought it
Big
was...
black eye.
You thought it was a
Who
wine.
do you think I got in a fight with, guys? Drop in the comments below.
You thought it was a Bordeaux wine. What about yourself, Steve?
Yeah, I think
Well,
it's,
I
think it's red
reminds me
wine
of like
finish.
a Burgundy or Bordeaux. That was kind of weird, like a rich red wine. Equally, it could be like an old school kind of porty cask. To me,
where's the sulfur coming from?
That's it. That's what I'm saying. To me,
it's
that's
so
why
present.
I would have picked out Burgundy or Bordeaux, because of that kind of depth. It's got the tannins. I think it's wine or fortified wine. I would go with a red wine first, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
He's like, it's rum. Rum. That's where I'm at.
So this is the English distillery Handfill, single cask. It's 11 years old. It's peated, P55, 57.9%. And it's matured in a second fill Burgundy cask.
It is
so
Burgundy.
Nice one, dude.
On the money.
It's 11 though, and to be honest, maybe I would have just guessed it from being the English, that I would have thought it would be younger. But 11 that's interesting. That's interesting.
Do you know what this tastes like? I know this is Harvey Nichols.
Yeah, a little bit as
Peated
well.
English.
No,
same age.
it's not as rich as that. That was fucking.
Oh no, I know it's not as
super
rich, but it's.
Similarly. Yeah.
I mean,
definitely, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Sorry, exclusive maturation?
Do you know what?
Because that's where I was trying to.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking younger.
No, it won't be.
I'm not sure actually.
I'll
to
tell
be
you why,
honest.
because I could be wrong, but I remember them saying that they put everything in first fill virgin all the time.
Do they?
Pretty much, yeah.
They've got a lot of starting periods. At the
Yeah,
English.
a
They
lot
really
of
do
starting
periods. With
However, this could be a one-off. It is, yeah. So it is okay. Did you pick this up there? Did you?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. You know, I had a job up in Norwich. Norwich is near. And I drove past the English distillery on my way down, and they had the handfill. I had a little sample, but they're about to close. And I was like, do I get it? Do I not? And I was like, oh, I've got to go. So they were shutting up, so I didn't get it. And then I was kicking myself. I was like, do you know what? I actually really liked it. So I had one of my friends, Matt, he went up there for a tasting, and he picked me up the bottle. But I really like it because, again, for me, it's one of those...
50 centilitre, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it must be.
It's
Yeah,
incorrectly writ 70 cl, but it's actually a 50 cl.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It was, I think it was like...
Sue them! No.
£55.
Okay.
For a handfill at distillery.
Decent.
You see some, I don't want to call out any names.
Cotswold.
but £110.
140 or 120, sorry, for 4-year-old.
That's ridiculous. Like, and
I'm
some,
really looking forward to going there, but no.
do you know what? Like some people's first, some people will go to a distillery tour as an experience. They don't even like whiskey, and that could be your chance to introduce them. And you sell them a handful for like £140, you say?
120. I'm
120.
Say, yeah,
It's just really expensive. So this, you extrapolate it up. I think it works out at like a £75 bottle or something.
Yeah.
But it's I bought
Single
it.
cask, distillery exclusive.
Yeah.
You're leveling up your experience there. It's, that higher percentage, 58%, 7.9, sorry. I was close. But it's beautifully integrated. It's a nice style. It's delicious. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, this is yummy. This is
Good gear.
Yeah, it's a nice dram, and the reason I bought it is because it's an English distillery. All of these are obviously all Scotches, but I think again there's a preconception before you know whiskey. People say
Has to be Scotch.
Has to be Scotch.
Has to be single malt. Has to be this.
Yeah.
Has to be that.
Exactly, and there's so many other whiskies, and this is a prime example of an English whiskey, 11-year-old. My pet peeve is when you hear someone in a bar or somebody at somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, I only drink single malt." They're like, "I only drink single malt," and I'm like, "What distillery?" And oh no, it's just single malt I drink. I'm like, "Well,
You don't know anything.
you don't." Yeah. Well, there's such a breadth of flavors when
Yeah.
you say single malt, and you see it in the movies, and I want a single malt Scotch. And it's such a broad word to use. I get it why people use it, but
I don't. I think it's people who don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
at the end of the day. And that's fine. But let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
It's people who haven't a fucking baldies what they're on about. Oh, I have
Yeah.
a single malt. From where?
Yeah.
What style?
Yeah, you give them a peated and you give them like an unpeated. It's
Do you know what I mean?
two broad
fucking different
spectrums.
things.
Yeah,
If you were to say a single malt from Speyside or Isla, then it's okay. Maybe you have an idea of what you're looking for and you don't know that that's fine. But if you're just going into somewhere and going, give me a single malt, it's like, you're a fucking pleb.
yeah. And
I'm sorry. Like,
no, 100%.
I think that people need to learn that on
100%.
their journey. And I think that's wonderful about what you've done here. Yes, you've got some great age statements, but that's not what it's been about. It's been about a journey of flavor.
Yeah. Whereas a broad spectrum, 10, 10. This was a 10 year, 15, 7, 11. And, there's great whiskey across the board. And again, this was, I want to say like £50. So it's very affordable. This is £90 more expensive, 70, 80, 40-ish, 30, sometimes 25. But this is, for people at home, depending on where your budget sits, this is where you could be to introduce, and then you'll progress from there. And for a lot of people, to spend £90 a bottle to begin with, it can be a lot of money. So having these options and having good whiskies at each option is great. It's fantastic, I think.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. Listen, what a fucking afternoon we've had with you, Jayac, and thank you so much for bringing these wonderful whiskies and sharing them. The last little recommendation that I brought along, which we haven't sampled, is the Clynelish 14. And again, we've got 3 whiskies here. They are all malts, blended malt, and 2 single malts. Not that matters. We got 2 age statements and 1 non-age statement, but if you're looking for a single malt, then, you go for the Glenlivet 12 or the Clynelish 14. They're both great whiskies as well. But like I say, again, that Campbelltown Lock is something that I go on about ad nauseum, and people are probably fed up of hearing it, but it's fucking wonderful whiskey. Anyway, look, we're going to do a little bit of a roundup here. Yep. As you fully well know, these whiskeys get a rating. It's buy, don't buy, bin it if we really don't like it, or oosh if it's well worth the money and fucking delicious. So we're going to start off with the Benriach 10. Now, obviously, Jayac, these are all whiskies that you've bought before. Mm-hmm. They obviously have a special place in your journey. I'm going to come back at the end and ask you what your favourite is, but I want you to get involved in the rating as well. Mm-hmm. What I want you to consider is, now that you are where you are on your journey, would you buy again? Okay? Yeah. So, a little bit of a different question for yourself. Stevie and I, obviously, we're going to rate as usual. Benriach 10.
What was the same for price?
Benriach 10, when I bought it, was £25.
Okay.
I think now online it's
about
35, but you'll probably get it on special for 30. It's one of those bottles that
£35 RRP. If you can get it on special, happy days. But I believe it is £35 as a retail.
Yeah. Are we saying as like someone getting into whiskey, or
no? We're saying as us.
Okay, cool.
I mean, take into account, make a comment if you want for people getting into whiskey. This is a journey into whiskey. Yeah. But Jayac, I'm coming to you first. Benriach 10. You bought one. Would you buy it again?
So, funny enough, there's not many bottles I actually buy 2 of. Okay. Because I'm still exploring and I limit myself to 1 a month, I never actually really ever buy more than 1 bottle. At the beginning, it was a really good whiskey and a really good starting point for the price, £25. You can't complain. But personally now, for the level that I'm at, I don't want to sound like self-righteous or anything like that, but I wouldn't actually buy it again. It's a great price, don't get me wrong, £35 for a bottle of whiskey is cracking. But for the style of whiskey that I really enjoy a really thinking whiskey. I want to sit there and be mulling over it for a while. And it's a nice whiskey, but it's not that type of whiskey for me. So for me, I wouldn't buy it. But if I was a beginner and in my first 6 months again, 100% I'd recommend that because it's a cracking starting point.
You're glad it was a really good point of your journey.
Yeah.
But you're moving forward and there are other flavours that you're looking for more keenly.
Yeah, my palate's just developed over time. And what I like is, we've tasted through the spectrums, a little bit more meatier, a little bit more heavier. And being a sort of lighter, sweeter whiskey is not necessarily something that I'd go for to sit on one evening or with friends. But 100% if I was a beginner, but at the moment I'd say actually is a don't buy for myself.
Cool, fair enough. Very honest, I like it. Stevie, coming to you.
£35.
£35, sir. You
know what? Considering it's quite a low ABV, it works really well. I really enjoyed that. It's creamy, it's fruity, It is quite a light dram, don't get me wrong, but it is a 10-year-old supermarket shelf whiskey, let's say. I'm going to pass on it too.
Oh.
However, I don't think I've had the 10 for a long, long time. I would recommend anyone getting into whiskey or friends that I have that are just dabble a little bit in whiskey. It's a solid buy for what you're getting, I think. And it probably goes on offer too. And if it goes on offer still, I think for £25 though, it's a great steal. That would be a big buy for me. Yeah. But I appreciate that was a while ago and things got off. But I will pass on this one this time.
Fair enough. You're wrong. I'm giving it a buy. Look, you know me. I buy too much whiskey. I love sharing it with people. I love having different bits and pieces on my shelf. And it's not the sort of thing that I'm going to go back to time and time again. I'm kind of in a similar position to you. My style of whiskey that I really prefer is that slightly meat. But Having said that, I have come full circle over the last year or two. I am drinking things like the Glenlivet 12 and like this Benriach 10 on an occasion where I'm not necessarily hunting for flavours all afternoon. I'm maybe pairing it with a cigar. I think this goes perfectly with a cigar. I think it's a good whiskey, and at £35 you cannot go wrong. I'm giving it a buy. You know, it's a non-thinker for me. You know, I appreciate that when you're starting off in your journey, £35 can be a lot of money to spend. £35 for me on a bottle of whiskey is like a good bargain. And if it tastes decent, I'm quite happy to buy it, shove it on the shelf, and I will enjoy it. You know, we've got a small selection of the bottles that we've got open here. Some of them are up in Scotland, some of them tucked away in my house, Stevie's house, Ian's house. I love sharing whiskey. That's what we're all about. And it's one that I would have to have on the shelf. So it's a good buy for me. And if you're early on your journey, it's a strong buy. And as Stevie and Jayac have said, if it's on offer, fucking jump on it. So £35, it's a buy. Moving on to the Arran 10, which I believe is
40 quid.
40 quid.
45 quid. Okay, sorry.
£41.75 on Amazon.
Okay. All right, so 42 to £45.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, if it's on Amazon, £42, let's call it. Jayac, where are you?
So what are the options again? Oosh, buy, don't
buy it, don't buy it. Oosh, if it's really good.
But would you buy it again?
And don't buy it. Oh, I'm bin it, sorry.
So again, it's difficult because it's that lighter style whiskey that I don't drink often anymore. It's very easy, lighter, but I think it's interesting. And I think at the time when I bought it, it was like £35. I'd buy it again. I'm not rushing, scrambling to buy it, but I think it's a good staple to have in your cupboard for when people come round. You know, it's a very nice introductory whiskey. When I've had friends who wanted to learn more about whiskey, it's one of the I've got this sort of set that I give people. That's one of the drams I always give people.
Cool.
And I also think in terms of a cocktail and stuff like that, I think that it's got that little bit more punch to it. It's got like sweet notes to it. So it's a buy from me. It's a buy.
Cool. You got that, mate?
Yes, mate, yeah. We've had a busy few days.
Just catching yourself. That's all right. Don't worry.
40 quid. Yeah, it's a strong buy
£42.
for me. Look, I love Arran. You know, that 46% as well warrants just that sort of price markup a tad from others in the 10-year-old range that you can get for this. It's great, as you say. Cocktails is a great one to give to people that are getting into whiskey. Yeah, it's cool. Buy it.
Buy it. Lovely. Yeah, same as the first one for me. It's something that I believe I've got in the cabinet at home. I'd buy it again when it runs out. Same as you. It's a great point to share with people. Similar to the Benriach 10. Maybe you don't need both of them on your shelf if you're right at the beginning of your journey and you've got money just for 2 bottles. Maybe pick one and then, you know, come back to the other one later on in your journey. Not that it matters which way around you go, but, you know, I wouldn't want people to be buying 2 very similar styles and kind of latching on and this is all that single malt Scotch is. You know, you can get different flavours out there. But as I say, I'm frivolous with my buying, and at £42, I think that it's well worth the money. I think it's a delicious whiskey and it's a buy. We move forward to the Cut Your Wolf Loose Williamson. This was £80 when it was retailed.
Yeah.
It's sold out. We didn't get to try it, so really glad that you brought it along today. Thank you so much, Jayac. And sorry, what was your friend's name?
Zach.
Big shout out, Zach. Thank you for sharing the wee dram for us today. You cannot buy it anymore, but at £80, it obviously sold out very nicely. Would you buy it again if you could?
Mate, in a heartbeat.
It's a big
oosh for me.
It's an oosh from Jayac.
Yeah. I think it's got sentimental value, so obviously it's got plus 100 points for that anyway.
Right.
The art, the label's awesome. For me, it was a really interesting starting point because it's a complex dram. You've got a bit of sweetness, you've got a bit of meatiness, it's got a bit of finish to it. It's an independent bottle. It's independently bottled Lefroy. You don't see it like majorly often, and the Vino de Couleur finish is like one of a kind. Yeah, for that reason, yeah, 100%. If I could, I would. Like I said, I only had the little sample that I could share with you today. I still don't know what to do with the bottle. I feel like this was my first serious bottle, and I just have it sitting in my cupboard now. I don't want to chuck it away, but I don't necessarily want to keep it. The artwork's really cool, so you might actually see in some of my videos, Snub23, the artist on there. I've got his artwork in the walls in my house, so sometimes in the background of my videos, you might see various robots or characters, and that's usually his artwork. But yeah. Big oosh for me.
Big oosh from Jayac. Stevie, £80, sir.
It's a big buy from me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because there's stuff going on in there that I need more time with.
Yeah.
Aye.
And I know you can't get any more.
I wish I had it, yeah.
And if I see it at auction, we'd be bidding against each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
But yeah, no, listen, it's also a really cool, the label's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's like some guy likes my style of kind of art or a niche of art that I do like. You know, it's a Williamson, you know, Williamson, I don't actually try too much of it, and you don't see too much of it, really, obviously. Yeah, there's stuff going on. I want to explore that more. I will be hunting that bottle down. It's really cool. Really, really cool. Strong buy. It would have been an oosh. I just can't get it. I think it's a good price as well.
8 quid, yeah.
I think it is.
Cracking price.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more.
What about you, Jake? What do you think?
It's a very, very strong buy. And again, guys, double check in the description. There will be a link to the Cut Your Wolf Loose episode. Obviously, we didn't try this one on the day, but Seb is bottling some amazing whiskies. Get down to the bar in Brighton. You can try this and so many other sorts of whiskies like it. I think it's a fantastic whiskey. It's a very, very, very strong buy. I think we'll all be bidding against each other. So let's just maybe set up a little group. We can make sure
Split a bottle.
Exactly. Let's split a bottle. Let's not outrank each other. Let's be reasonable. Let's share and enjoy as we have done today. It's a strong buy on that Williamson for me. Moving forward, the Springbank 15. Is the RRP now 75? That sounds a bit higher than I thought it was. I thought it was 65, 70, to be honest.
I think it's...
It was
Maybe
like
it's a bit more
67 for a few years, but now, I mean,
It's so hard because so many different retailers also like chuck on a little extra. I've seen sometimes...
You can buy it for £245 off of Threshers.com.
Oh, fantastic, mate.
Yeah.
Cracking deal.
Yeah. 148 from DJC Trading. But I can't find 148, 245, 148. Where's the real fucking RRP here?
I think
here we go. It's Whiskey Shop. 75 quid. Master, it's £75 everywhere
It's
else.
£75.
75.
Okay, I thought it was 65, 70. But all right, £75. It's gone up a tiny bit since I last purchased, but that's fair enough. £75, Jayac.
Yeah, it's a buy for me. It would be a strong buy if it just wasn't so hard to get. It's a really nice liquid. It's a very reasonable price. A 15-year-old whiskey, you know, it's a 46% for £75. Really good value, but it's just the difficulty of getting it. And like you said, maybe that adds to the specialtiness of it, if that's a specialtiness. It makes it more special because you have to search it. You know, you feel excited when you get it because I managed to get one. You know, it's a bit like opening Pokemon cards and you get the shiny. You're like, I like the shiny. I liken that to the Springbank 15, but it's just a shame that it's hard to get, and I don't want to be sitting there pressing refresh in the morning trying to find a link, and I don't want to be struggling
for a core
to do
range bottle.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
like...
But 100% would buy it. I see it, I'll buy it because it's a good bottle.
All right, Stevie.
Yeah, it's a strong buy.
Yeah,
solid dram.
What else?
And it's well priced. Yeah, Springbank.
No. Cool. Yeah, no, I agree. It's a buy. Good buy. Love it. We'll buy it again. I think I've got one in my cupboard.
I have.
Probably need to crack it open now.
You can have it for 245 quid.
Can I?
240, £5 off.
Mate. Oh, yeah, that's really kind of you.
Yeah, do your deal.
Cool. Moving forward, we had the Little Brown Dog, which was a 7-year-old Ardnamurchan.
7-year-old Ardnamurchan, 90... Yeah, £90.
£90,
I believe.
Cool.
85.
Where you at, Jayac?
For me, I buy it again. It is very pricey for what it is. It's £90. Don't get me wrong, it's expensive, but it's in my collection for a reason. You know, like I bought it at that price. I tried it at a bar first. I tried to try the whiskies I buy beforehand now because I've been stung a few times. But yeah, tried it at a whiskey bar straight away. Wanted to buy it. So for me, it's a buy. But again, I understand the price is a little bit more on the higher side for other whiskies at that sort of age bracket and statement.
Cool. Stevie?
Pass for me.
Yeah.
It's out of my sort of price range for what I got from it. I think if I paid that, I don't know what I'd be expecting, but you know, I think there's a lot of hype, and listen, there are some great expressions. And this was okay. It was pleasant, but it's just too expensive for me, so it is a pass.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Stevie. It's a don't buy from me. Little Brown Dog is a great brand, and equally Ardnamurchan is a great distillery. I personally feel that the best is still to come from Ardnamurchan. Some distilleries really sing at young ages. Some of them don't. I don't think Ardnamurchan is either or. I think it's a great whiskey and it's great to watch as it grows. I just think that the best is yet to come, which is exciting to see. It's not in a zone where, you know, some distilleries are putting out 3-year-old liquid and charging an arm and a leg for it, and it's shit, you know. So I have nothing bad to say about Ardnamurchan. Equally, as I said, tried some great little brown dogs, but £90 for this, for me, nah, it's a don't buy. Thank you for bringing it though. Really interesting to try. That's what's wonderful about days like this. And trying whiskeys with friends, splitting bottles, enjoying, getting along your journey. And I can only recommend getting involved, you know, whether it's messaging us, messaging the Whiskey Amateur, getting involved in groups, you know, finding people that are like-minded, do bottle shares. You know, do little tastings with your friends. It's a great way of getting involved and trying things where you don't have to go £90 in on a bottle that maybe you don't end up liking, but you still get to try it. So thank you again for coming and sharing your whiskies. And please drop a big thanks in the comments for Jayac doing that. Moving on, we had the English distillery, which was a single cask exclusive from the distillery. Yep. Remind me, you said 11.
11-year-old.
11-year-old.
£55, I believe.
£55
CL.
for a 50 CL. 11 years old, 57.9 in a Burgundy cask.
Second fill Burgundy, yeah.
Second fill Burgundy. Cool.
For me, again, a strong buy. Because of the price, you know, you extrapolate that up, it's about £80 a bottle, but you're always going to pay a premium for a slightly smaller bottle. But £55, I actually quite like a 50 CL bottle, and it might be controversial to some, but I think that it gives you a chance to try more whiskies. You know, these bottles still have quite a bit left in, and I'd personally love to have like lots of 50 CLs rather than just a small number of 70 CLs. That's just me. But £55, it's you know, it's relatively cheap to buy. So yeah, it's a strong buy for me. It's a thinker, and it's a good introduction to English whiskey as well.
Cool. Stevie?
It's an oosh.
It's an oosh.
It's an oosh. Yeah. I love this. I love picking up hand fills when they're reasonably priced. I think this is reasonably priced. 11 years old. I think if it was, you know, sub 10, I would probably be, you know, it would be a strong one. But yeah, it's got all the funk and the weirdness and that I like, you know, that heavy sulfur. There's some really nice sweet notes in there. The fact that it's English as well, you know, they are doing some good stuff. We've obviously bottled one, and we've had some great expressions before. Yeah. I always pick up distillery hand fills. Yeah, always.
Definitely. Yeah, look, I really enjoyed this one. It was funny actually because obviously we had Seb on the episode and he made a comment about not really enjoying whiskies that are matured in wine casks, and I didn't say anything another day, but a lot of our audience know that I love whiskies that are matured in wine casks. And I can't remember who it is. I'm really sorry. Drop it in the comments if it was you. Someone commented saying, "I noticed that Jake didn't say anything. I want a beard off between him and Seb on wine cask or no wine cask whiskies." Beard off. It was a great comment, a little beard off. Fucking hilarious. But I'm with you, Stevie. I really enjoy this. I think it's a very strong buy. It's nearing an oosh for me. I think I've just tried quite a few whiskies recently that are similar style. Like I say, we bottled an Ardnamurchan that's in a Burgundy. We're currently maturing a few different casks of our own in wine casks. It's everything I want and more. I'm buying multiple. It's so close to an oosh. I don't know what I'm wanting more to give it that. I don't know.
A lower price?
I don't know.
Do you think the price is reasonable?
I think the price is very reasonable. Yeah. I think the flavour is all there. It's just, an oosh is really special, right? You know, and this is a very good whiskey and it's a strong buy. It's borderline oosh for me. It's right up at the top there. As you say, highly recommend you pick up these distillery exclusives. It's fucking delicious. You know, I picked it all out, so well done me. They don't call me the whiskey baron for nothing. So yeah, no, look, I think it's a delicious whiskey, and thank you so much for sharing it.
No problems at all.
Bang on. Jayac, what's your favourite of the day? Now that you're a little bit, you know, you call yourself the whiskey amateur, and I think, as we said at the beginning,
this is a question.
You know, we'll always be at the foot of the mountain. I think you come at things very similar to me. You're quite humble and you're coming at things from a point of view of always wanting to learn more, which is great. Yeah. And I think that's going to take you on your journey so much faster than most people. I know what I want. single malt. It's like, all right, mate, good for you. Enjoy yourself, that's fine. But you've got a passion, and you're very humble, and you're always learning, and I love your content.
Thanks, man.
And it's great to have you here. Now that you are that little bit further along your journey, what's your favorite and why?
So the easy option would to say this, because
Nostalgia.
obviously sentiment, yeah, exactly, and it probably is, but I would have to actually say that this would be the high second place, shared for joint, because it's interesting. It's an English whiskey. People come with a preconception about English whiskey. Some people around the world, you say, oh, it's English. Oh, that's fucking shit. Same as English wine. People say, oh, it's fucking shit. But in reality, they've not tried it. They might have tried it many years ago, but it's changed a lot over the years. Second fill Burgundy, it's peated. It's got different things that you can try and pick out. Can I pick out the English whiskey? Can I pick out the peat? And then can I pick out that Burgundy cask? So as my type of whiskey where I want to sit and think, that's perfect, because I can sit there and be like, right, can I taste those notes? I've got several different layers I'm trying to pick apart. Don't get me wrong, the other whiskeys are nice, and I love them, and I drink them. They're part of my collection for a reason. But I think at the moment, this is just, it's a nice thinking whiskey that I have in my collection.
Definitely. Some great layers there.
The question I've got to ask you as well, Jayac, is your handle, your brand name. Because obviously, and as you say, we're always learning. We're all amateurs in our ways. But there is going to come a time where you probably will feel, you may be there now, that you're past that sort of, rookie stage, if you like. Do you reckon you ever change your handle from the whiskey amateur to something
Whiskey
else?
professional? Someone asked me that, and I don't personally work in the whiskey industry. Now I work with brands and I produce content for brands, but I'm not, but behind the lines, I'm not distilling. I'm not.
It's not your day to day.
Exactly. So as much as I learn a lot, and I've met many people that have a wide whiskey base, I don't think I could ever be a whiskey professional unless I'm, producing the stuff myself.
Okay.
I can get a really good knowledge. I could become the whiskey encyclopedia one day, maybe. But for now, I'm comfortable being the whiskey amateur. It means that if I make a mistake, I can say, hey, I'm the amateur. I'm not trying to be the professional here. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I like that. Like I say, I think what's great about you, Jayac, is your approach. I cannot ever get around the idea of being a profession is one thing. Arguably we're professional because we work in the profession. It's our job. I think we, again, very much an amateur. It's people calling them, self-dubbed experts. Fuck off. Yeah. There's no way. The amount that I know about whiskey, every time I learn something new, I realise how little I know.
Yeah.
You talk to people who are the distillers and the master blenders, and you sit down, you listen to them, you go, oh my God, there's a whole world over here I know nothing about. And then you talk to brand ambassadors and you're going, fucking hell, there's a whole world over here I know nothing about. I started in the industry as a cask trader, and, I know a lot about that, but I'd never call myself an expert. I'd never call myself an expert in any area. Knowledge in one area means that you're lacking knowledge in another, because it's crazy to me. I really struggle when people go, I'm an expert. To me, that's like, it just smacks of being overconfident. Sorry, what was that, Stevie? It does though. Yeah, look, I think, all right, mate, good for you. You're an expert.
Exactly.
Fuck off. I think it's much more honest to say, I'm an amateur. I'm enjoying myself. I'm a passionate individual. And I think that that's what's, something that we all share here and why we get along so well. And it's really nice to meet you properly. Again, we met briefly at the whiskey event there the other day, but properly finally today here now, sharing some drams. We need more people like this in the whiskey space. Good for you for calling out people who are maybe saying, oh, what does he know? Everyone at home, if you're a whiskey geek and you've been in the industry for fucking ages, or you've been an enthusiast on Facebook groups for whatever it is for ages, or if you're brand new and you know nothing, let's make sure everyone feels welcome, whether, male, female, old, young, wherever you're from, whatever your background, whatever your knowledge, share it. Enjoy it. I think that's what's so wonderful about this community. Majority of people are exactly like that, but I think it's a shame that sometimes, the unloving people creep in and, try and shit on people's parades. We're all just here for a good time. And I think that's what's so wonderful about whiskey, sharing the passion. But anyway, listen, it's been wonderful having you on.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Honestly, yeah.
You're welcome back anytime.
I was so nervous, to be honest. I was sitting here like, looking at notes, like, what am I going to say? But
we weren't too,
good.
weren't too domineering, hopefully. It's been wonderful hearing your story and learning a little bit about you and your journey. Please make sure you like the episode. Make sure you follow not only us, if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, don't know what you're up to. I think over 95% of the people who watch are subscribed. But if you're not one of them, drop us a sub. Make sure you're also following The Whisky Amateur. You're on TikTok. You're on Instagram. Yeah. You on YouTube?
Facebook, YouTube.
YouTube. You're on fucking everything.
Yeah, but all my
across
videos,
the board.
Yeah, all my videos are like sub 1.5 minute. So that's the sort of demographic or the style that I go for. So everything's, short
you want
information.
Quick, clean content where you can understand, like you say, use it as a search engine, understand what Jayac is enjoying, what he's not enjoying, what he thinks. Such a pleasure to share the afternoon with you. Let us know what you guys think of the lineup, what your start into whiskey was like. But for now, that's been us at Uncut and Unfiltered. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Slàinte mhath.
Cheers.